Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining the Guangdong-Hong Kong-Macao Greater Bay Area Clean Air Supply Chain Conference. This is organized by the Hong Kong Chamber of Shipping, and it's also supported by our academic partner, Hong Kong UST. Thank you very much. And also generously sponsored by BV, RENA, and Invest Hong Kong. My name is Pamela Koo. I'm the Acting Secretary General of the Hong Kong Chamber of Shipping. As you know, we have a very, very busy schedule today. So without further ado, may I just invite Ms. Nancy Yip, President of the Hong Kong University of Science and Technology, to say a few words, please. Please, Ms. Yip.
Mr. C.Y. Leung, Secretary Mable Chen, distinguished guests, colleagues, students, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It's really my great pleasure to welcome you all to the HKUST beautiful campus. We are honored to host this important event with the support of the new Hong Kong Chamber of Shipping. And HKUST is indeed honored and delighted to be the academic partner. Shipping plays a vital role in our daily lives and in the health of our economy. It connects our city and our people to the rest of the world, keeps global trade flowing, and serves as the backbone of the international supply chains. Yet, the global nature of this industry is often overlooked, perhaps because most of us rarely board a ship or step into the ports and terminals. But behind the scenes, the shipping sector is quietly and tirelessly enabling the movement of goods, energy, and essential commodities around the globe. Our port has long been a cornerstone of Hong Kong's history and prosperity. In recent years, the spotlight has turned on the need to improve maritime environmental responsibilities. The International Maritime Organization has set clear targets and timelines to decarbonize global shipping by 2050. This represents not only a necessary shift, but also a pivotal moment for transformation. The challenge is enormous, and so is the opportunity. There are infrastructure systems to reimagine, technologies to develop, policies to innovate, funds to raise, and investments to make. From zero-emission fuels and green port infrastructure to digital navigation tools and carbon pricing mechanisms, the path ahead demands collaboration across sectors, disciplines, and borders. As Hong Kong's first research-intensive university, HKUST is driven by a very clear mission to advance learning and knowledge through education, research, and knowledge transfer. We have a long-standing commitment to researching ship emissions and their impact on the environment, and we are proud to have played a pioneering role in the scientific and policy response to maritime emissions. As early as 2005, our research revealed that ship emissions, especially sulfur dioxide from vessels operating near port, were a major contribution to local air pollution and public health risks. This finding helped catalyze Asia's first fuel switching policy for ocean-going vessels at berth under Mr. C.Y. Leung's administration. The policy was subsequently implemented in Hong Kong in 2015. This local breakthrough inspired national action across mainland China and contributed to international debate at the International Maritime Organization. Our researchers also developed some of the region's earliest and most detailed automatic identification system-based marine emission reports, providing real-time insight into ship emissions and enabling more targeted science-based control strategies. Building on this foundation, HKUST continues to support Hong Kong's maritime transformation. In 2024, we collaborated with our shipping friends, and many of you are present here today, to propose a roadmap to the Hong Kong government for Hong Kong to be a green maritime hub. Beyond decarbonization, the shipping sector is also embracing the digital revolution, like every other industry. HKUST has deep capability in digital information, innovation, data analytics, and AI. All these tools are very essential for building a smarter, more efficient maritime future. Indeed, HKUST is so proud to have worked closely with both local and national authorities to support evidence-based policymaking. China's national 13th and 14th five-year plans both support strengthening Hong Kong's status as an international maritime center. We share the same vision and will continue to collaborate with the local government, the Hong Kong Chamber of Shipping, and other partners in the maritime industry to boost the status of Hong Kong as an international maritime center. So together with you all, we see this as a unique opportunity for Hong Kong to lead not only as a maritime hub, but as a center of innovation, policy, and finance for the green shipping transition. We look forward to your continued guidance at today's conference. Again, I would like to express how deeply honored we are to be the academic partner for this event. And we look forward to a long and fruitful partnership and to contributing meaningfully to the sector's transformation. So again, a very warm welcome to our beautiful campus, and we look forward to a very productive meeting today. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Ms. Yip. Now, we have the pleasure to invite Mr. C.Y. Leung, Vice Chairman of the National Committee of the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference, and also the founder member and honorary advisor of the Hong Kong Chamber of Shipping. Mr. Leung, please.
Nancy, Mable, Hing, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Hong Kong is one of the few cities in the world that has the word port, gang, in its name. Nearly 200 years ago, the port functions brought entrepôt trade to the city, which witnessed the birth of Nanbeihang, or South-North merchants in Shanwan. The port functions and then supported the growth of Hong Kong's export-oriented manufacturing industries in the 1960s, and then the reform and opening up of the mainland of China that began in the late 1970s. These functions were inseparable from those of Hong Kong at large, and indeed inseparable from the ebbs and flows of the country's history. Proactively, the Hong Kong port and the shipping industry has served the country well, so much so that the Hong Kong SAR Basic Law has 4 articles on shipping, and so much so that since the 11th National Five-Year Plan 14 years ago, the central government have expressly supported the elevation, 提升, of Hong Kong's status as an international shipping center. Read together with the constant expectations over the years on the part of the central authorities of China for Hong Kong to utilize its unique advantages, 独特优势, in support of the country's development. Elevation, the key word in 3 successive national 5-year plans, cannot be construed to mean just doing more of the same things. We have to elevate. It has to mean transformation, and in the process, moving up the value chain. This is the only effective means by which the new generation of Hong Kong people can earn a better living in this high unit cost city and climb the social ladder. This is also the only effective means by which we can turn potential competition with our neighboring ports in the mainland into collaboration. Hong Kong has never operated on its own, never. That's the fundamental reason why I coined the concept of Hong Kong being the super connector between the rest of China and the rest of the world. In recent years, 2 districts in Guangdong province, which is next to Hong Kong, have been designated significant platforms for Guangdong-Hong Kong collaboration. They are Qianhai in Shenzhen, right next door to Hong Kong, and Nansha in Guangzhou, which is 45 minutes away by high-speed train. Both are major ports and have very significant container throughputs. Additionally, Nansha has the 3rd largest shipyard in China. Hence, the national strategic context of Hong Kong's shipping industry is complete, robust, and obvious. In the past few years, we have managed to surprise more than a few people in the country by proving that shipping to Hong Kong is more, much more, than moving boxes around. We can continue to surprise by moving ahead of the curves, the global curves. Today's topic is a good example. The environment was one of the 4 major policies on my SAR government's agenda. Those were the 5 years ended 2017. Our Secretary for the Environment, K.S. Wong, and Undersecretary Christine Low, Christine, thank you, were both expert environmentalists. To the team, you could add C.Y. Leung, who is amateurish, but an environmentalist nonetheless. In a matter of 5 years, we managed to say goodbye to regular air pollution warnings and to TV news footages showing pedestrians covering their noses in busy street corners. We also worked with Guangdong province, our close neighbor, on regional air pollution. And the result was that Hong Kong and Guangdong have stopped blaming each other, whichever way the wind blows. Clean energy is the way to go. It is not just about the environment. It is not just about our health. It is also about the growth of Hong Kong's economy and our economic transformation. Supply chain is where Hong Kong, the super connector, comes in. The Greater Bay Area is the stage on which Hong Kong and Guangdong can prove that our functions are complementary. Of course, as the Chinese saying goes, the meat bunts will not fall from the sky. More research and collaboration between academia and industry will be needed. More regular dialogue between Hong Kong and the mainland will also be called for. I'm very pleased to see Hong Kong UST and the Hong Kong Chamber of Shipping taking a lead, joined by experts in Hong Kong, the mainland, and from other places. I wish this conference a great success. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Leung. We're very honored to have Ms. Mable Chen, Secretary for Transport and Logistics, with us today. Please, everybody, welcome Ms. Chen. Thank you.
Mr. C.Y. Leung, Professor Yip, Hing Chao, and distinguished guests and ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I'm so honored to join all of you here today at the first Guangdong-Hong Kong-Macao Clean Energy Supply Chain Conference today. I particularly like the theme of the conference today because it's just cover Guangdong, Hong Kong, Macau, and also about clean energy, and in particular, is about supply chain. I think the challenge and the opportunity for Hong Kong in the coming years will be surrounding with all these three themes, which is the very important topic for us to not only explore, study, but also to act. The International Maritime Organization, IMO, has just recently approved the IMO Net Zero framework this month, which I think a lot of the experts and professionals joining us today are aware of. This framework establishes the world's first industry-wide greenhouse gas emission limitation and pricing mechanism, with a will to further spurring the industry's efforts to achieve the shipping emission reduction targets as set out in the 2030 IMO strategy on the reduction of greenhouse emission from ships. The trend of maritime decarbonization is now simply unstoppable. Stakeholders in the maritime industry must take decisive actions, and so do the government, in particularly to gradually switch from conventional fuels to low or even zero carbon green fuels. With the growing popularity of green maritime fuels, many ports have been developing green fuel bunkering. While Hong Kong might not be one of the pioneers on this front, we are definitely and rapidly closing the gap. We promulgated the action plan on green maritime fuel bunkering November last year, setting out very clear objectives, including 5 green-centric themes and 10 actions. Our ultimate goal is to develop Hong Kong into a green port and a green maritime fuel trading hub. Since then, there have been very successful examples of collaboration in the industry. We have 3 successful commercial LNG bunkering operations in our local waters since the first maiden trial operation of LNG bunkering on the Valentine's Day this year. And I think this truly reflects the confidence of the shipping industry in Hong Kong's new role as a center of green maritime fuel bunkering. The trade of green maritime fuels is currently at its infancy. To break into the new market of green maritime fuel trading, we must first build up a green maritime fuel ecosystem and gather the relevant stakeholders from different parts of the green maritime fuel supply chain, as well as the green shipping-related talents in Hong Kong. I think talent building and nurturing is definitely one of the topical areas that government will be pursuing. And I also share the same vision with the Chamber of Shipping, which is also actively pursuing different talent nurturing programs in Hong Kong and in the mainland. The Marine Department has set up a dedicated team to provide one-stop services to green shipping-related organizations interested in starting business in Hong Kong. And professionals in green shipping has also recently been added into Hong Kong government's talents list. So for all those interested in joining this talent list, do let us know your applications and the interested parties so that we can facilitate and assist. In addition, we are actively engaging a number of enterprises from Hong Kong, the mainland, and beyond, including various organizations such as shipping companies, green maritime fuel producers and bunkering operators, as well as gathering the information from them on the demand for green maritime fuels by relevant enterprises. This will enable us to build a platform in Hong Kong to facilitate exchanges and cooperation among different enterprises in the supply chain, as well as to match their demand with green fuel producers from the mainland. Our aim is to form an organic green maritime fuel supply chain in Hong Kong. This is not an easy task, but I think we have the determination to provide a platform and also to provide one-stop services. We are definitely hoping to work with the stakeholders in the industry, in particular the chamber, with Hing, Charles, and the other members of your chamber, so as to work out quickly an organic ecosystem in Hong Kong. I don't know whether any one of you are aware, Hong Kong actually ranked 7th as the world's leading ship fuel bunkering center. With the staunch support from our country and together with other cities in the Guangdong-Hong Kong, Macau, Greater Bay Area, as well as other cities and provinces in the mainland, we aspire to build up a supply chain, in particular on fuel supply, transport and distribution, bunkering operation, technical and academic exchange, and manpower training in order to maintain our position and competitiveness and to better equip ourselves to support our development as an international shipping and maritime center. Looking ahead, we will shortly promulgate the Code of Practice on green methanol bunkering by the middle of this year. And I hope we'll invite EOI's expressions of interest from the market in relation to developing green maritime fuel storage facilities on a Qingyi site later this year. So please remember, our expression of interest exercise will be launched later this year so as to gather the updated market interest in the potential of Hong Kong in the storage of green methanol or even other new fuels. Apart from continuously enhancing the green maritime fuel ecosystem and collaborative platform, we will vigorously promote the development of green maritime fuel trading in Hong Kong. At present, the trading volume of green marine fuels is relatively small and is primarily conducted directly between fuel producers and users. Notably, there is so far no green maritime fuel trading center in the world. As the trading volume and popularity of green maritime fuels continue to grow, we, Hong Kong, is on the path to establishing a vibrant trading system in Hong Kong. Hong Kong as an international financial center boosts a mature financial market, a common law-based legal system, and free flow of capital that allows efficient post-transaction settlement. And I believe this unique combination positions Hong Kong better than any other cities in the country to become the go-to international platform for the trading of green maritime shipping fuels. And this also will help our country secure a leading position in this emerging trading market. Green maritime fuel bunkering is only our first step towards green shipping. As an international maritime center, Hong Kong must evolve into a green port to support and drive the industry's transition towards sustainability. As Mr. C.Y. Leung just mentioned, the aspiration towards green and sustainability is not just the vision and policy agenda item of this term government, but is also of the previous term of Hong Kong SAR government. In this connection, I would like to report that the Marine Department has formulated a green-friendly port arrangement to give priority to green fuel-powered vessels to use anchorages. In addition, as stated in our action plan, we have set the target of reducing carbon emissions from the Kuiting container terminals by 30% by 2030 as compared with 2021. we have been working closely with the port operators to follow up on their green transformation process, as well as encouraging the industry to achieve decarbonization through port automation and the adoption of more innovative technologies. Developing a green port is an integral part of Hong Kong in preparing for the setting up of green shipping corridors with other ports for the rest of the world. Hence, we have been working at full speed to actively pursue the establishment of partner port relationships with other ports to enhance the collaboration in different specific areas. In addition, many green shipping corridors incorporate elements of port digitalization. I think port digitalization and digital system is also mentioned by Professor Yip just now. Thanks to the Legislative Council, we obtained funding approval just last month and will complete the development of a digital port community system within this year. This will not only help provide the industry with more convenient, accurate, transparent, and traceable real-time cargo tracking services to enhance the competitiveness of Hong Kong port amidst the current uncertain trading environment, but it will also connect us with similar systems at other ports in the mainland as well as for the rest of the world for efficient and paperless data transmission. With green as the background color of high-quality development, the concept of environmental sustainability remains ever relevant across territories. The Hong Kong SAR government will continue to make every effort to implement the measures set out in our action plan, and we will incorporate other related measures into our policy planning as and when needed. And in this process of transformation, I definitely need the expert advice and support from the stakeholders in the shipping and maritime industry. With unswerving overall policy directions as our map, firm action measures as our engine, and clear, ambitious targets as our compass, the government will play a leading role to lead local enterprises to brave the waves and chart a new course for green shipping. Ladies and gentlemen, last but not the least, I would like to thank the Hong Kong Chamber of Shipping with the leadership of Mr. C.Y. Leung and with the vision and staunch effort, passion of Hing Chao for supporting the policy direction of the government and organizing this conference in particular to gather the views and opinions from industry experts to facilitate opinion exchange. I would also like to take this opportunity to call upon all of you to join us in developing Hong Kong into the premier, high-quality, green maritime fuel bunkering center in the region, promoting our transformation into a green-friendly port, as well as establishing an organic and symbolic green maritime fuel trading center so as to make unique Hong Kong contributions to our country's development into a maritime superpower. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Ms. Chan. Thank you so much. Actually, if you do not mind, we'd like to take the opportunity. We'd like to take the opportunity to take a group photo here. Mr. Leung, Ms. Nancy Yip, and Mr. Hing Chao, please, if you could step forward and take a group photo. Thank you so much. Everybody please stay, because there will be a second group photo. May I invite our generous sponsor for the event, Mr. Alex Gregg-Smith of BV, Mr. Simona Manca of RENA, Ms. Kathy Chan of Invest Hong Kong. 我们还有来自盐田区副区长简正先生 from Yantian Government. The Director of Maritime, Mr. Wong Sai-Fat. Mr. Wong, please. And Mr. Chen Yihao of CCON, and Mr. Vincent Chu of Equator Fund. Thank you so much to all the event sponsors and our Chamber's principal sponsors. Thank you so much for your support and generous donation, without which we cannot do this today. We might need to adjust a little bit, if you don't mind. We might want to squeeze a little bit for a nicer picture. Thank you so much. Okay, let's get to work. All right then, so I think everyone is aware MEPC 83 just concluded over a week ago. Our friends from BV, they were actually at the event. So let's invite Nick Brown and Gerrit Bunt from BV to give us an update and share some thoughts with us. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thanks, ma'am. So, good morning, everybody. Professor Ip, Mr. Leung, Secretary Chan, thank you for your wonderful words. It's been a tremendous introduction, I think, and it's so wonderful to see so many people in the room today, that this really is a unique opportunity. And thank you, Hing, for making this all possible with Pam and Christine. I'm really looking forward to helping moderate one of the sessions this afternoon on green corridors. But clearly, you can feel the energy in this room. And Hong Kong really, as part of the Greater Bay Area, does have a very unique opportunity, both to develop the green fuel infrastructure, the electrification, and potentially be a platform for green corridors, which the world needs. It comes at a unique time after MEPC has established, as Secretary Chan has said, the only global platform for decarbonization for a single industry. So it's a really important time. And Hong Kong, I think I must emphasize that, and having been at the workshops in Yantian and our playback in Hong Kong again in November, that to see this journey continue really is really inspiring. So I'd like to thank everybody for what they've done to make this possible. And I'll hand over to my colleague Gerrit, who's based in Shanghai and is our sustainability lead in the region. Thank you very much. Over to you, Gerrit.
Thank you. Good morning all, thank you. Emissions, greenhouse gas, intensities, all buzzwords of today, buzzwords of the future. But what does it mean? It brings uncertainty. What will happen? When will it happen? Who is going to act? And how are we going to do all this? So, basis on the clean energy fuel supply, we look into 3 areas. The first area is the trading routes. The trading routes have changed over the years. A lot of trade is now passing through the Cape. Other trades over the Pacific is going through the North. And this is all because of geopolitics, because of weather routing. Geopolitics, the Israelis and Hamas, they don't like each other. In Yemen, they are shooting rockets at us. So the best is to pass through the Cape. Nowadays, in January, we have typhoons. So let's go more up north, avoid them. What is then the consequence? Despite all our efforts to reduce our carbon gas intensity, our absolute intensity went up for 4%. We were making more miles. Yeah? So we are working together to find the optimum routes, to find the optimum trading things. Next, the supply chain. The supply chain is changing. We've got regulations in place. New MEPC 83 is about supply chain greenhouse gas intensity. We have to work together. MEPC 391 tells us, please, governments, please, suppliers, please, ship owners, work together, all of you. We've got all of the stakeholders within the marine industry which are now having to talk together. Now, what is the issue? Is the fuel, the clean energy. Who is going to pay for the clean energy? Who is going to pay for penalties and credits like in the EU? Who's going to pay for the GFI? So most of the time that is the charterers. Yeah, the charterers are paying for the fuel because the customers, they want to have those products. So we see changes in freight agreements. We see BIMCO changing its contracts. But then the charterer is having good contacts with the ship owners. And they say, I want you to run on methanol. I want you to run on biofuels. And this is based why the ship owner is changing his systems into new fuels. We see the charter agreements changing because for IMO, the document of compliance holder, the ISM manager, is responsible. He has to pay for the fuel, he has to pay for the penalties and the thing. But I am a ship operator, I don't have all this money. Yeah? So who is going to pay? The charterer. So we see changes in charter contracts, we see changes in contracts between ship owners and ship operators. And then we have the fuel suppliers. Who are the fuel suppliers serving? And what we want is long-term agreements. What we see that the market likes for long-term agreements because long-term agreements gives a guarantee for investment. Spot markets is very short, very thing. So here we see changes as well. So all the change is financial and legal. So financial and legals have to join the table of the technical part, have to join the table within this whole discussions. And then the next, how much is this going to cost us? That's what we all want to know. And there was MEPC 83. The big topic is the midterm measures, raising an IMO fund, setting standards, fuel standards, telling us how much it would cost. And this, the IMO have put all in, or they want to put it in MARPOL Annex 6 in Chapter 5. Now here is a thing to think about, because MARPOL is a regulatory code. MARPOL is about technical. And why IMO is choosing MARPOL? Because we don't have time for a convention. Yeah? So we need to see how this is working out. So the GFI standards are in Annex 6 because of the emissions. We are implementing an IMO fund. IMO will be in charge, will be responsible. We're going to create a trading system, a GFI system with surplus units and efficiency units, deficit. And we have to have increased data in the IMO DCS reporting system. This is from the ship owner side, but also our bunker delivery nodes, the BDNs, will have an extensive extension of data which we need to know. We need to know the greenhouse gas emissions from the commodities, the greenhouse gas emissions of the transport, of the storage, and this must be all transparent supplied to the ship owners. Then, of course, there was a lot of other things going. NOx code, really interesting, but not for these sessions. CII reduction factors are now known for 2027 to 2030. And we have defined when are we underway and when are we stopped. Yeah? So that is very easy. That is the end of sea passage and the start of sea passage. And this is very important because, as I already said, the financial people have to join our table. This is where it all starts. So here, quick overview. Midterm measures. Most important thing is the money. We have surplus units, we have deficit units. We have over-compliance and under-compliance. Now, what is the goal of the IMO? That we reach the target. As long as we are always on the target of IMO, we don't have to pay nothing. We are not getting anything, but we don't pay as well. The deficit units, the under compliance, we have to pay in 2 tiers. Tier 1 deficit, $100 per ton of CO2 equivalent emission. Okay, not per ton of fuel, per ton of CO2 emission. Tier 2, $380 per ton. It means the more dirty you are, the more you have to pay, which makes sense. However, this is the rules to make the implementation of new fuels easier and faster. The IMO fund, something which is very interesting for the financial part. The IMO fund is called the Net Zero Fund, and it's independent and governed by people from IMO countries. So there is not one single country who can say, oh, I'm giving you this money, I'm receiving this money, nobody will benefit. The nice thing, the revenue from it will be used for for new projects. The revenue from this will be rewarded for people who are early adopters. The data, what I already said, well-to-wake intensity. The whole talks about levies, about contribution, about taxes is gone because it's impossible to put it in a legal way into Marpol. For that we need another convention, we need another code. So how does this tier deficit and surplus units look like? We have the IMO targets, which we call the direct compliance target. Yeah? If you're a little bit dirty, then you're reaching the base target. If you're over that, we have to pay big money. So direct compliance with a formula, Tier 1 compliance deficit, and Tier 2 compliance deficit. So the costs are depending on how is your strategy of your vessel, what is the strategy of your fleet. When are you going to change? Are you going to change 1 or 2 vessels, which is giving surplus for the rest of your fleet? So what is your strategy? And there is where we are helping as class society companies, societies. It's about the greenhouse gas intensity of the fuel. Biomethanol, e-methanol. The lesser the greenhouse gas intensity of the production, the less transport we have to do, the less bunker vessels we have to run. It's reducing our greenhouse gas intensity. Ship owners have to pay less. Blending, if we're blending fuels, we can impact our cost. And we see a lot of companies nowadays trying to do the trading within our example, the Fuel EU. Companies are seeing if it's worth to do trading of surplus units, buying surplus units to compensate for their things. And there again, financial has to sit on the table because we are going to go into stock markets of surplus units. Now, the big question I hear from many ship owners, but we already paid to the Fuel EU. Now we do need to pay double, Fuel EU and the IMO. Well, what's happening in the Fuel EU, they have one clause in the whole regulation part, and they say whichever is best. So if the international rules and regulations compliance is better than the EU regulation, the EU will bring it to the EU Parliament and to see what has to change on the Fuel EU and the EU ETS. All right? So now what's happening? The IMO targets are better than the EU targets. IMO wants to be net zero 2050. EU wants to be net zero 255. China net zero 2060. So it means that whenever we are compliant, and there is the key word again, my advice, be compliant, reach the goal of the IMO, then you never have to worry about finances for IMO, you never have to worry about finances for EU. You're always safe. So do what the IMO wants, reduce your target year after year after year, be continuously improving. So we made some calculations, we're trying to, we're still busy, it's in progress, so I give you the first views on what is going to be inside. VLSFO over 2028, 2035, you see this is the known targets of the IMO, will go up. And why it will go up? Because of the tier 2 deficit units, we have to pay $380. The same in 2028, we will get some surplus unit for LNG. This is the gray LNG, and it's going up after 2035, where we have to pay surplus units. Biomethane of methanol is now expensive, but prices will go down, and prices will go down because we will have surplus units. So if we make a combination of fuel consumption, energy consumption, and the trade of surplus units for our fleets, we can have a big benefit of using methanol. And then there's the B100, the same principle. So what will happen in the future? For the ship owners and the charterers who are paying the fuel. After 2030, in way of the cost price, it will be better to use biofuels. And this means biomethanol, biomethane, B100. Yeah. So from 2035 onwards, it's better to use e-methanol. From 2040, it's better to use e-ammonia. This is purely the financial side. So now we know the when. Now we know how much it will cost us. Now for the ship owners. The ship owners, it's not only about the fuel price. No, it's about the total cost of operators. And what is the total cost? This is how much do I invest in this new system? Yeah? What is my initial price? The total cost is the lifetime service cost. What is my fuel? Yes, but also what is my maintenance? What is the changes which I have to make to be compliant? And then very important for traders, for brokers, for ship owners itself, what is my remaining value of the vessel? You can imagine a vessel who is fully compliant, it's worth more on the broker's market than a vessel which is dirty. So, what is the key outcomes? The trade routes are changing. The trade routes are important for green corridors. Where am I going to put my supply? And how can I lower my supply greenhouse gas intensity? So the cleanhouse of the clean energy must be operational by 2028 when the rules of the IMO start to be enforced. And in 2030, because then the first fuels are not becoming compliant anymore. So by 2030 is an absolute deadline where we need to have our supply system in order. Levy systems, as you've seen, determines when ship owners, charterers are choosing and opting for new fuels. The greenhouse gas intensity, the well to wake, is determining how much money it's going to cost, how much things. Of course, I can talk for hours, I can talk for days, so whenever you need information, contact me. We're helping you out. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Gert. I know you still have a lot of slides, yeah, to show everyone. That's okay. Yeah. But that's okay. We'll have all the PPT and a video of this shared with you later on, so don't worry, ladies and gentlemen. So let's now invite Ms. Christine Low, please, from HKUST. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much. I'm going to now give a very simple version of what Gert said. And at HKUST, we do science and we do policy. So I hope this is going to be easy. The only thing you need to remember here is really what the IMO has done. it's created a new global regulatory floor. So to combine or summarize what Gerrit said is this is what we all have to follow in a very short time. So again, from our view, we think LNG has a relatively limited transitional life. And as far as biofuels are concerned, there's limited feedstock. So therefore, we're really looking at methanol, ammonia, and hydrogen. And what is important here is when we talk about well to wake, we're really talking about the whole life cycle. And the advantage from mainland China is that China has already built a lot of opportunities to use clean energy to make fuels. So I think this is very important in terms of a China advantage. I won't go through this because Gerrit has a much more complicated chart. But here again, I put a question mark here because there is so much complexity. And what are we really doing? We're building alongside the fossil fuel supply chain with a new green fuel supply chain and all the infrastructure and ports and policy that needs to go with it as well. This is a huge challenge. So, as I said, we're building an entirely new system next to the existing system. So in order to do this, within a relatively short period of time, and all around the world to be able to support shipping, to really get there, coordination is essential. So if we are to cooperate, what do we need today in Hong Kong? And of course, Hong Kong is very much connected to the mainland, to the GBA, our immediate neighborhood, but also to mainland China. So I'd like to see, from a research point of view, maybe we need to ask ourselves what kind of alliances and cooperation we need to have. Don't forget electrification. We have a cruise terminal in Hong Kong where the infrastructure, or to put in the infrastructure, has already been built. So obviously, this is something we should think of, but also for the terminals at Kwai Chung, something to think about. Well, I guess we've gone through this already, so I won't repeat this. The technology part, digitalization and green, actually is the flip side of each other. And there's a lot really to do there. And MEPC, the IMO, is really telling us that we need systems integration. So it's, again, a huge challenge for all of us in the industry. Well, I guess this is what you're suffering from right now, because we're at the beginning of the path, fragmentation of policies, and what IMO has come up with. I think there needs to be national alignment from authorities around the world. This will take time, and I'm sure you're all used to actually making a lot of complaints because this is not easy. We just like Hong Kong to go a bit faster. So early movers, this is what Gerrit talks about. Early movers actually will have some advantages under IMO. Question is, how do we understand this in Hong Kong? How do we understand this actually for the whole of China? And how do we capture that? So here, the stakeholders, there's one group of stakeholders that hasn't really been part of the discussion, and that's the cargo owners. So again, if you accept that we're going through a revolution, and there is a timetable that is actually fairly tight, how can we sustain what we need to go through financially if we don't involve everybody? But we don't have a tradition to actually have these kinds of intense collaboration. So I think this is one point that we should all be thinking about. I wonder, obviously, training and talent is very important. Should we look at, as a matter of policy, Hong Kong becoming a training hub? And we can be a training hub both in English and in Chinese. So this is something that I think, as a matter of policy, Hong Kong can capture. So this is my first summary. There's a second summary later on. See if you agree with us. So there's a new global regulatory floor now in place. Compliance will start in 2028, which is just round the corner. Green corridors and these new fuels will define the competitive edge. So I think if you believe that, we need to think about how to capture that opportunity. Holistic approaches are necessary. And again, I come back to forming alliances. Mable, Secretary Mable Chan, also talked about wanting to work with stakeholders. And she talked with some urgency. So I agree with her very much. The question here is, what kind of platform do we form? You know, it's like Tang Sik Fan, right? It's like inviting people to a dinner. We all like to be invited, but actually to create a platform, you have to do a lot of organization. What food to buy, planning the menu, who to invite, who to have the table, and who sits next to whom, and so on. So what I'm saying is, actually it's easy to talk about dialogue platforms and convening, how to convene discussions that make sense over time to bring people along. But to actually do it, it's actually quite challenging. So, but Hong Kong is the kind of place where I believe we can do it. So who will take up the role to do that? Or how can we cooperate across the platform to work together? I think that's the secret of how fast we can go. Now, clean air. The reason I want to press this point here is that ports, both the big ships and the smaller crafts, the domestic local vessels, actually emit still a lot of pollution. So electrification of, obviously we're talking about OPS, but also the smaller crafts in our harbor also are contributors to air pollution. So how can we also be thinking about electrification of our own domestic waters? But if you can imagine that the local waters of the GBA, this is also a marvelous area to think about electrification and total cleanup. We had done that, as Mr. C.Y. Leung mentioned, and that was through cooperation between Hong Kong, the mainland authorities, and the GBA authorities. I wonder whether this is the sort of thing that we can look forward to in the future. So my last slide, opportunities for Hong Kong. Obviously, the government, I think, will have to align with IMO. We have to capture our GBA location, where fuels are made, aligning across the ports and the authorities. These are very important. And the fact that we have a well-to-wake advantage, because in the mainland, they can make the fuels with clean energy. So the obvious thing is to think about the current phase as our first line of action. So I know many of you have been talking about, let's get a methanol bunkering pilot done this year. So I think if you believe this is possible, let's work closely with Mable and get that done. Secondly is, since we've already built space for the OPS in the cruise terminal, and many cruise ships today are OPS enabled, let's get that done too. That could be a public sector activity, but that could be also a private sector activity, because I think today, I'm told, we have private sector people who are interested to invest. Of course, we need to think about Kwai Chung, but anyway, let that be perhaps the second phase. And then I think Hong Kong needs to look at electrification policy sooner rather than later. So we need to align between Hong Kong and the mainlands, because there are disparities between Hong Kong and mainland on fuel standards, on bunkering, the ship standards, so on and so forth. And I think Hong Kong and mainland should really think about using policy to help de-risking and to make this the vision for the future, the green port that Mable talked about. And lastly, let me press the issue about alliances today. So perhaps today, as we continue with our discussions, let's also think about, or you share your ideas with us, what kind of alliances would you like to see? Do you think having these more formal discussions among stakeholders in Hong Kong is important? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Christine, for the short but insightful presentation. Now let's switch to something very high-tech. So we'll be inviting Enrico Beccaceci. Sorry, Enrico, I tried. Enrico Beccaceci, yes, right? From RENA to present. It's on blockchain technology.
No worry, Pamela. Italian speak even worse than, pronounce my surname even worse than you, so no worry at all. Okay, good morning, everybody, and dear ladies and gentlemen, thank you for inviting us. Dr. Chao, thank you for inviting us. So, my name is Enrico Beccaceci. I'm Italian. I'm based in Jakarta since 2 years and a half, and I have the honor of managing the commercial activities for Asia Pacific in consulting part of RENA. Today we have presented and we have prepared a quite short presentation about the blockchain. We would like to introduce to you these advanced technologies and to show the applications of this advanced technology to green electricity, to green fuel, but even to other, let's say, different applications. But you will see different means, but same application, same way, same results, same benefits. So I told you about commercial. Let me do 1 minute of marketing to introduce RENA. Really 1 minute, I promise. We were founded in 1861. I was not there at that time, but at the moment we are almost 6,000 colleagues spread in 200 offices in 70 countries with our team that is composed by more than 90 nationalities around the world. We have 2 legs. The right leg is RENA Services that for Asia is led by Mr. Simone Manca that involve marine, our ship classification business, certification and real estate. And then on the left side of the slide, we have a consulting. So the part that I have the honor to manage, to take care, and is energy. So everything that is connected with the oil and gas to renewables. Infrastructure and mobility, I think it's quite self-explaining. And then industry means our laboratories, so means everything that is connected with material performances. Stop, less than 1 minute. Good. So let's go to the core of the presentation. So I would like to introduce you the blockchain. What is the blockchain? The blockchain is an advanced technology that is a sort of means to register the data and is characterized by its security, immutability, and total transparency. And this blockchain plays a fundamental role for the traceability and accountability, especially when a lot of or a few stakeholders are involved, so that the blockchain can consolidate and improve the trust and reliability of the contest, especially when there are some sensible data that needs to be handled, needs to be managed. Of course, there are not only strengths on the blockchain, okay? Because we talk about the strengths in terms of security, in terms of immutability, in terms of transparency. There's one issue about the blockchain. Here we have a quite simple example. Let's imagine that the blockchain is a safety box, okay? Safety box is a secure and reliable container. So meaning that you expect that inside a safety box there should be money. No, you cannot be sure about the blockchain. You can be sure that your data will be secure, your data will be reliable, your data will be transparent, but you cannot be sure that inside the safety box there are money, or there are money only. So what do you need? You need a sort of blockchain data verification service. And this is what, with RENA, what we have created in our digital platform. So we help to ensure the veracity, the validation, and the verification that all the data, all the money, all the material inside the safety box are really money. So what we do, I mean, we have highlighted our approach in 4 main steps. First of all, it will be the definition of the claims that we have to verify. So, I mean, the list of activities, the list of topics that we would like to verify, because we are not sure that part of this data will be really reliable and really in line what we expect inside this safety box. Then we have the setting up of the digital platform. So the connection of the information system with our digital platform. And then step number 3, that is the most important. So we perform the verification. After the verification, with the outcomes of this verification, we provide a digital declaration, so a digital certificate that will include the results of this certification, of this verification, and the modification of our verification in terms of all the data that needs to be corrected, that need to be modified, will be written in the blockchain. That is the step number 4, so that the client, so the organizer and the end customer, they can really see and can really notice what we have modified in the blockchain data. So you can see that there will be some benefits, let me call technical benefit for this data verification service. And I would like to say very quickly that the benefits are both for the organization. Organization means who make the investment. So who create the data register, who create the data categorization, and also for the end customers, that is who have access to the data. So it will be a mutual benefit for both parties. And again, there's an increase of the trust, especially in the relationship where more than two stakeholders are involved in, let's say, in this sort of agreement. Here, I would like to be very, let's say, give you some example, because I would like to go out from the presentation and to say how it's important, the blockchain, also for the life cycle of a product, from the raw material to the collection and recycle. We have a case study. Okay, recently we have completed a case for the traceability of a wine, so wine barrels. Okay, and it was so important because the wine producer would like to categorize and to register all the data, all the wine typologies, all the wine characteristics, so that all the end customers can have access, and the wine producer can be sure that all these end customers will have the chance to have a look and to have a clear in mind which are the data and which are the characteristics of the wine. But the good thing of the blockchain is that this can be applied for everything. Can be applied for green electricity in case of you want to buy green electricity, or you want to track the carbon credit, or you want to have a real information about the reduction of the CO2 emission. So it's really important to ensure, let's say, as I told you, the security, the immutability of the data, and of the transparency. The same can be applied, here we are in the shipping, so can be applied for the green fuels. Let me say that the approach is more or less the same of the wine, starting from the raw materials. So previously we were talking about the grapes, here we talk about the feedstock. Of course, one liquid you can drink, the other one I would suggest to avoid to drink. But the process is the same. It's the same in terms of for a green fuel, if you sell a green fuel, you have to be sure that the product is sustainable and all the steps of the value chain are made according to the sustainability. Let me go to the last slide with some financial aspects. I think, let's say, all of us are interested to technical parts, but also on economical parts, especially in terms of where we can cut the cost for where the blockchain improve the cost saving. First of all, for the traceability and certification, because having everything digital, you can save time and save money in audit and certification cost. Or maybe in terms of process efficiency. I told earlier in one of the first slides that among the stakeholders we may increase the trust and reduce the administrative friction, dispute, time delays. So let's say, would this reduce the cost implication? So we can speed up the process and we can reduce cost. And also can avoid any damage between the stakeholders. That is something that is normal, the main showstopper of an agreement. And then also the smart contracts, because having automated payments will allow to save operational cost and to improve the cash flow predictability. That is something that for a company is really important to have a business plan, to a strategic plan, and so on. And also for the potential cost drivers. I mean, there's an upfront cost. Who want to invest in blockchain has to prepare the blockchain. So it will be an upfront cost. Especially if the supply chain is not already digital and all the steps of the value chain need to become digital. Or maybe for the scalability and energy use. There are some blockchain models that can be energy intensive. Energy intensive means less cost effective. That is why it's really important to focus on greener and scalable alternative, and also because determine a sort of better suite and also a cost impact. Here on the right side of the slide, we have identified which are the benefit, okay, in terms of audit and certification, in terms of supply chain, logistics, in terms of compliance reporting, and the transaction cost, which is the cost saving in terms of percentage. According to our information, we have from 10 to 50% of the cost we can save. With transaction cost that in this moment, according to, let's say, our research, our internal information, we can achieve even 50% of cost saving, while, for example, for the supply chain, we can be around 10. For audit and certification and compliance reported, we are more or less in the middle, around 30%. And last but not least, the last information was relevant to the upfront cost. So the investment payback, the return of investment. How many months? How many years? So the datum that we want to share today is that the average timeline for the investment payback is around 12 to 18 to 24 months. So that's more or less an order of magnitude that we would like to share with you today. So that was the very last information. So again, we are here, we are everywhere, we are in 70 countries. So whenever and whoever has some question, we will be more than happy to reply. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Enrico. I think the morning is full of information for everyone to intake. So I think it's about time that we take a short tea break. We're running behind schedule, so I'm going to cut your tea break by 5 minutes, so maybe about 10 minutes. In the meantime, while you're taking your tea, you can also come back in here. There's a promotional video for Yantian that they want to show everyone. So ladies and gentlemen, feel free to go out for some tea and coffee and then come back in here when you're holding your cup of tea and coffee and then just watch some video. Thank you very much. So we'll be rushing you back in 10 minutes. Thank you. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're about to start our panel discussion now. For the first panel, may we welcome our moderator, Mr. Roberto Giannetta, and our speakers are Mr. Alex Gregg-Smith from MENA, Hing Chao, Captain Dutt, and Sunny Wong, please. So I'll just save time, not be introducing all of them. They have their titles on the screen. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pamela. Thank you, Chamber of Shipping, for organizing this. HKUST, lovely place to meet here. And thank you, panelists. Yes, we'll go ahead and get started. This is our panel. You see who they are, so I won't take time to introduce them. Let me just go ahead and get us started here. So we had heard some very good opening remarks and some three very good comments on what is being done in Hong Kong, what is being developed, what we're doing in terms of technology. I was taking some furious notes. I hope everybody else was. Let me just ask you, and we can start, Alex, and go down the line. Was there anything that really stuck out? Anything that really caught your attention that you thought would be a highlight?
Yeah, but really interesting discussions this morning, and I think a lot of the speakers this morning have really said a lot of the main points. For me, there's several factors here. Time is really important. Collaboration, these are the words I think that have been mentioned by several people. Transparency, data accuracy. There's a lot of different people in this room today, a lot of different stakeholders. This type of event is absolutely essential. Everyone's involved. We really need to get involved. We're getting a little bit more clarity now, I think, with the IMO regulations. And for me, it's always been, what is the cost of compliance? I've always been in the maritime industry. Maritime industry really develops economies. Hong Kong and China, if you take them as examples, they've really developed from ports and maritime transport. Maritime is the key to success. And we now have opportunity here for Hong Kong and the Greater Bay Area to really make its mark, especially with the green supply chains, with green methanol. China mainland is really developing this fast. They have access to a lot of green electricity, and they can be one of the key players here. But we need a collaborative teamwork across the whole sector. So this, for me, is one of the key elements. And then we also need AIPs, JDPs, regulatory influence, so the government needs to be involved. Financial institutions, absolutely key here. These are the people and the money that makes it happen. So all of these segments and things are essential. I'll stop there, otherwise I'll take up everybody else's time.
Thank you, Alex. Good points. Collaboration, cost, accuracy. I like that. Hing?
I agree with everything Alex has said. I would like to sum up my thoughts with two words: optimism and opportunity. I think seldom has there been a moment in time where a global regulation that's extremely challenging and could be punishing for those who don't apply is actually welcomed with so much optimism. It's actually what the global maritime industry has been waiting for. What we don't want is navigate into a future where we have a lot of fragmented, national-driven regulations. We actually want a global drive towards decarbonization that is cohesive, that's systematic, and where we can actually lead to results in the foreseeable future, step by step. And I think myself in particular, because I wasn't sure what will come out at MEPC 83, and some of the early discussions that has gone before didn't give me so much optimism. The optimism has really come. I think, the IMO has sent out the strongest possible signal that the drive is there to drive towards decarbonization. And there's no way around it. There's no way back. That's a true commitment. And then I think the opportunity comes from the fact that, as covered by the keynote speakers, we're in the right place at the right time. Hong Kong has demonstrated a lot of leadership in the past. The Clean Air Act has had not only a decisive impact on improving health for the city, but it's demonstrated leadership in the region for the Greater Bay Area, for China, and indeed has had international influence. And I think we have arrived in another moment in time where Hong Kong can actually grasp, if only we can grasp this opportunity, we can demonstrate to the world what can be done and to really bring tangible solutions to the roadmap that is now being developed by the IMO.
I like that optimism among the stakeholders and opportunity in Hong Kong. Very good. Atul?
Yeah, thank you, Roberto. So I agree with my panelists. And for me, I think the key takeaway is the commitment and the focus. I see a lot of commitment now, which was, we didn't see that in the past. And there's a lot of focus on creating Hong Kong as a green fuel hub. For us, as a shipping line, which is based out of Hong Kong, the Asia and Africa headquarters, we have been really waiting to see this because we are one of the first ones to come out with the LNG ships into Hong Kong, and we are the first ones to do LNG bunkering in Hong Kong, and we saw that commitment just a few weeks ago that Hong Kong put in place, and we were able to do the LNG bunkering here. And we are looking forward actually to see the green platform, to see whether we can get the bio fuels into Hong Kong. And that is going to be a key game changer really on the ground. We need those changes. We need to see action on the ground. And that can only happen if we see all these stakeholders coming together on one platform like this and giving their commitment into this, and really in a focused manner. And we see that happening now, and we need that for the future of Hong Kong and for the future of GBA.
A common platform, that's good. And thank you to Zim for being one of the first companies to bring in a vessel for bunkering in Hong Kong. Well done. Sunny?
Yes, thank you, Roberto. So I would say all are exciting news, and I have two key takeaways. So the first one is we really finally have a global regulatory framework for shipping to decarbonize, and this is very important because as a private company, we don't really have the capacity to simply pass on our cost of decarbonization to our customer. So we understand that regulations has to lead in this whole journey, and we need to bring everyone to this journey. And I'm very delighted to see the IMO midterm measures. And hopefully, I hope that the EU will stand down from its current EU price, GHG pricing system to avoid any double pricing. And the second key takeaway is that China has a very important role to play in shipping decarbonization because China is a leader in renewable energy and is the main driver for renewable energy production. So we cannot ignore the importance of China in advocating or advancing the whole decarbonization journey. And if we take a look at the national policies, green transformation is inherent in the new quality productivity forces. So you can see that it has a strong commitment in that, and with this commitment, China is determined to bring green transformation, especially in the shipping sector. So we can't ignore this part.
Very true, very true. We hear a lot about collaboration and the need for everybody to come together. So Alex, I want to start with you. We saw some good progress come out of the MEPC meeting, and that was very encouraging. I'm like Hing, I wasn't optimistic at first, but I was quite encouraged to see what they came up with. But in order to get over the hump, we need a lot. There's still a long road before industry can sink our teeth into something. So in the room, we have industry stakeholders, we have government. I wonder what role can we play to align quality, price, and certification standards for decarbonization?
Okay. Well, probably, I mean, if you talk about standards, I think the fuel standards are all established now. So that's one part. The quality of the fuel is important. The traceability, when you're talking about well to wake and all of that, that's not finalized yet. The cost of the fuels isn't clear yet, and there's a lot that can be done. I think the green methanol of China isn't the cheapest at the moment. Scale is important, and I think we need to move quickly to get, well, Hong Kong and Greater Bay needs to stay relevant. Hong Kong has been developed over a long period. They were leaders. It's maybe dropped back because of China becoming so big, but it now really has an opportunity to get a bunkering hub. And it's not just about methanol, it's all of the green fuels. The governments need to be involved about pushing the agenda and really making it happen. Electrification, this is another part as well. This OPS really needs to be done, and this will, I think it's like the film The Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come, was a statement that was said. The demand is there. The more you can actually supply, the better it will be. The price will come down, and it really need to get moving. So the opportunity's there. We've got some forward-thinking people, Hing, Chao, and the Hong Kong Chamber of Shipping. They're starting to push the agenda now. We need the financial incentives as well, and green financing. Money is all the end of this. Everyone needs to make money. Shipping companies are here to make money. They're not charities. So we need to do it in a cost-effective and promote this with incentives if we can.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, that at the end of the day, this is a commercial business, a commercial world. I want to engage the audience. I'm going to continue with questions, but just to get a feel from the audience, we know that the price gap is quite big between black fuel and green fuel. And we know that that gap needs to be narrowed in order for us to get going here. I wonder if I were to ask, what sort of percentage narrowing of the gap do you think is needed in order for us to really start using green fuel? I'll throw out three figures, 3 percentages, and we'll do a vote. Do you think that it would be 30% narrowing of the gap is enough, 50%, or 90%? I'm not going to 100% because I know that's not realistic. Who says 30% would be enough for you to start using green fuel, or for us to see a movement on that front? Anybody? No hands up. 50%. Okay, hands are starting to go up. And I see hands from BV and Rena, and also some suppliers, some users. Okay, thank you. 90%. You need to okay, so you think that is, you need a big step help in that. Hing, what can China do that might facilitate this uptake in green fuel?
First of all, as we all know, China already has a very mature supply chain for renewable and the development of the renewable infrastructure, particularly along the Chinese coast. And we have to remember, according to IMO as well as the EU's well-to-weight calculation, the closer you are to the place of use, i.e. closer to port, the better. And all along Chinese coast, we see a developed and rapidly escalating infrastructure for renewable. So that's a very good starting point. Secondly, the ability for research and development in alternative fuel is also very fast. There's a commitment from big companies, both from state-owned companies as well as from private enterprises. According to the internal company research we've done about a year ago, there were more than 100 pilot projects that's being discussed in China. And I think, probably about less than 10 will probably go into production with the ability to actually sell the products as properly certified and being produced according to international standard within this year. Most of the ports are looking to do a pilot exercise at least once a year. And, if we look at the top 10 ports around the world, we all know 7 are in China. All of them, including the 11th, which is Hong Kong, want to do a pilot study. So all of that shows us that China has a commitment, has the resources, and has a vision and ambition to become to be at the forefront of decarbonization. And they have the supply chain, they have the resources to support that as well. So all of that gives me a lot of optimism. At the same time, the MEPC 83 is set the perfect foundation for that. And if we're able to also tap into some of the technologies and innovation that was discussed this morning, including blockchain technology, because as we know at this moment in time, a lot of the pilot studies in China for methanol production have their own sort of self-contained renewable infrastructure, so that to create traceability, to ensure that they pass through EU laws. However, if we're able to apply blockchain, that could be a game changer, because that means tapping into the existing electricity. It means tapping into the existing grid. And that means on-grid renewable fuel, sustainable fuel production. So all of this gives me a lot of positivity. And I think in the short term, China can become a leader in this space.
Absolutely, I agree. If China can build a hospital in 10 days, China can put out some production plants pretty quickly. You mentioned, or there is some talk on onshore power, and I think that that's one of the areas that we're looking at. We know that China, all of the terminals in China have the capability for onshore power. Europe is going to be going towards a mandatory, but in Hong Kong, we don't have that. What do you think that China, again, Hing, what do you think China might be able to do to help in development in that on that front? Is there much that we can count on from China?
I think, first of all, in terms of the policy research, that was done 10 years ago, and Hong Kong actually understand the benefits of clean air, as demonstrated in the past. And I think we're at that moment in time where we have a very proactive government. We have all heard the ambition of TLB from Secretary Chang. And therefore, I am very optimistic that within the near future, Kai Tak could become the pilot case demonstrating what value onshore electricity can provide not only to shipping, to decarbonizing as a first step towards decarbonizing the harbor, but also improving health and air quality for Hong Kong residents. Once we have done that, we have to look further afield. We have to look at ambitions set by Singapore. And if Hong Kong indeed is to maintain our position as a leading maritime center within the region, then we have to develop a more general, slightly longer-term plan for electrification of the harbour and as well as for ocean-going ships. And this needs to happen by stages. I would say Kai Tak probably represents the low-hanging fruit. Longer term, I think, the Hong Kong government is already pushing forward electric ferry, which is going to be another very important case study. And then, containers. You know better than me that at the moment in time, maybe a fairly small percentage of the containers coming to Hong Kong have shore power ability. But if the Hong Kong government can work with industry to give priority to ships with such a facility, and maybe working towards reduction of port fees, etc., to incentivize industry, I think this can happen quite quickly. And then we're looking at the whole marine ecosystem, electrification and decarbonization.
Yeah, so you mentioned air quality. Now, I have to say that Hong Kong has done a lot to improve air quality. CY Leung talked about it. We've heard what has been done to reduce sulfur, for example. I see Kenneth Leung previously with the EEB and now with HKUST. I have a question, if I can, to Kenneth. Do we really need to do more in terms of air quality? I'm thinking particularly coming from the Kwai Chung side. I know that Jeff and the container, the cruise terminals are already doing quite well. But at Kwai Chung, do we need to do more? And if so, what can be done to improve air quality further?
Okay, definitely we have been improving our air quality over the past 10, 15 years. However, if you look at the monitoring station, we have one parameter, which is the nitrogen oxide, which is very difficult to reduce, in particular surrounding the Kwai Chung terminal area. That data is almost 10 microgram higher than the surrounding area. That means if we can improve the emissions around that area, we have better chance to further improve Hong Kong's air quality as a whole, and also to enable us to move closer to the WHO AQG's requirement. And definitely by electrifying the port will enable us to reduce significant amount of the emission. Right now in Hong Kong, the maritime sector emits almost 30% across the board for various type of emissions, because we have control measures for power plants, but I think this is the right time when IMO with this new legislation or regulations, and that is the time that we can do something to further improve our air quality.
Roberto, I just want to add a word here. I think electrification and alternative fuels must go hand in hand, because when we talk about net zero, from the WEI perspective, that doesn't mean ships have no emission. And one of the workshops we're going to have this afternoon is creating green corridor, and I think electrification must be part of the equation, because it doesn't make sense for ships from a full supply chain perspective, WEI perspective, to be net zero, only to be emitting emission where there is a highest population density at port. Low-hanging fruit is just plug in the electricity.
Very true, but given the electrical grid that exists around Kwai Chung, it is an old grid. And from what I understand, I understand that it's going to take quite an investment, quite a lot of work to get there. I see some terminals people here, and I also see some energy producers, suppliers here in our room. Is it possible, let me come to you maybe from CLP, Andrew, can this be done in a commercially viable way to be able to produce onshore power at a relatively quick pace? And then we'll come back to the panel again. I haven't forgotten you guys.
Yeah. Thanks, Roberto. I think we have to put shore power in the context as any green solution. Ultimately, we're working backwards from the emissions it produces, whether it's green fuels, and especially with IMO's well-to-wake focus. How are those green fuels produced? How is that shore power? It's supply chain, in the case of shore power, it's what is the fuel mix producing the electricity that's on our grid. Now, coincidentally, and this is courtesy of long-term planning from the government, CLP's carbon intensity on our grid is relatively low. It's about 0.4, which is the same as LNG. Towards 2030 to 2035, it's going to be about 0.1. Now, that's courtesy of a lot of nuclear power that we'll be bringing into Hong Kong and reducing our use of coal to between 20 to 0 up to 2040. Great. Yeah, so it's actually a selling point. We're quite unique compared to many other port city-states in having access to that amount of green power. Now, many other ports have a shore power plan, despite having, I'll say, a dirtier grid. Hong Kong's selling point, especially for those ships which haven't made the leap to green fuels yet, is that there's an opportunity here to help them meet compliance.
That's a lot of the ships that come to Hong Kong at the moment.
The ships. But to go back to your question, the technical barriers for shore power per se, the equipment, are not particularly high. It's almost a mature market in many places. The challenges with Hong Kong, of course, is, as you alluded to, Kwai Chung's quite an old area. The grid's complex, shall we say. There's already several berths, so we could probably move to put shore power in straight away. But as with any electrification, and this is one key takeaway worldwide, is it requires a lot of planning. So the earlier there is a concerted effort by both government and private enterprise to plan for shore power, the more benefit Hong Kong collectively can get from this.
Thank you. That's good to know. Point one, that is fantastic. That's good to something that is very valuable for Hong Kong to be working towards. Let me move a little bit, and I'm going to come back to the panel, but first I want to do a poll. So we know that ships have a lifespan of about 20 years. That means that the vessels that are being put out at sea now are going to be those that are in circulation close to 2050, and decisions are needing to be made now. We're talking about first movers. Who are those first movers? Are the first movers the suppliers? Or are they the shipping lines, the demand side? Is it the producers? Is it the finance people? So let me do a poll. I'm going to give you, let's say I'm going to give you 3 choices, and then one could be a fill in the blank. Who should be the first mover? Government? Government needs to set the pace. The fuel producers, we have a couple of fuel producers in the room, or the vessel operators, which we have some on the panel and also in the room. Who should be the first mover? Who says government? Wow. Can government, can you take a picture of that and send it? Anybody say it should be the producers? Okay, there's one. Good. We won't take a picture of you and send it to but CIMC, do you see him? How about the shipping lines, the users? Okay, we have a few. Sonny, you're one of the shipping lines that is a first mover. And Pacific Basin has done a lot, particularly in terms of methanol. So my question to you is, what would be the commercial considerations that a shipping company or a first mover, we can just generalize it, would need to consider?
Okay, thank you, Roberto. I want to start off by saying that decarbonizing shipping is very challenging because we have been using burning fossil fuel to operate our ships for many years. So despite we have been doing a lot to enhance our energy efficiency of our ships through technical measures or operational measures, we can't achieve net zero unless we change the way we use energy. So which means we have to use energy from renewable sources that could be solar, wind, hydrogen, ammonia, methanol, etc. And it requires a complete transformation of the whole value chain, not only the way we operate our ships, but also various parts of the supply chain. And so for Pacific Basin, last year we ordered 4 ultra-max green methanol dual-fuel vessels. And we choose green methanol because based on our current analysis and also because of the existence of regulation. So in the beginning, I said regulation has to lead. And we make our analysis based on the fuel maritime at that time. But of course, now we have the IMO midterm measures, and our teams are doing the analysis now. But I'm sure that with all these regulations, it really encourages operators and also owners to really shift to using those green fuel and also green ships. And I would say, if you look at a financial perspective or economic sense, it doesn't make sense to make such investment. That's why we need regulations. Yeah. And under the regulatory framework, we may be able to get some benefit because those regulations really encourage you to use more of this green fuel. And for example, you may be able to sell your surplus unit to others, and also while complying with those rules. And being a first mover in this area, I would say, because we have a large fleet of about 110 owned ships, and it takes time for us to, renew our fleet to comprise of really all about net zero emission vessels. And it takes time. And so we are doing it gradually. And through this approach, we hope to gain more expertise and to build more capacity on this learning curve so that we know how we can optimize better, how we can compare with the rules better, and also compete with our peers. And through doing, making this order, we also want to send a very clear signal to the market that there is demand for such green fuel. And we are also in dialogue with various green fuel producers, mainly based in Hong Kong and also China, so to see how we can secure any supply of green methanol in the future, and also to work and collaborate each other. And hopefully, we hope to bring some good news, to our stakeholders within this year. And secondly, we also want to encourage more financing in this area, because there's a lot of capital in the investment in this area. I'm not saying only on the shipbuilding side, but also a lot of the infrastructure and also supply chain related services that can enable the whole thing to achieve full decarbonization. So these are some of the, I would say, first mover advantage. But the key is really to also engage our customer. So because let's say our Chao customer, they are the key in this whole journey. And a lot of time we talk to them because they share the same vision with us to really reduce their Scope 3 emission. And that's also very important because everybody has the commitment to achieve net zero.
Yeah, I think Christine mentioned that the cargo owners are one of the big players that we don't engage too much. Are there any cargo owners in the room today? Well, see, exactly, to my point. I remember from Gert's presentation that methanol has a nice trajectory and to get to net zero. LNG probably won't go as far. Now, Zimline is one line that has not put all your eggs in that basket, but has done quite a bit. LNG, however, as we saw from the presentations, is not going to get us across the finish line 2050. So from Zim's perspective, since you have gone down the LNG route, how do you see the pathway to go from where you are now at the moment with LNG to a net zero propulsion?
Okay, thank you, Roberto. So yes, ZIM has invested in 28 ships, LNG, ranging from 8,000 TEU to 15,000 TEU, and we have taken delivery of these ships by the end of 2024. We have done the first batch of these deliveries are over, so we've got all these 28 ships. And recently we've ordered another 10 ships, 11,500 TEU, for delivery in 2027. So what does this mean? This really means that we have confidence in the future. The lifespan of a ship is about 25 years. And we think that it is going to get us past the 2050 net zero. And how does that work? In its current fossil fuel-based form, LNG actually gives a 23% reduction in greenhouse gas emission from tank to wake, and from well to wake about 17%. So clearly, right now, it's the best fuel to use, and we are using that in a cost-efficient manner. So while we have to look at the future, we have to look at the present as well. We have to run the ships till 2035, 2040, making sure that we are running them efficiently. At the same time, we go to the second phase, which is the biomethane, which is LBM, liquid biomethane, which actually gives an 80% reduction, 80% reduction on greenhouse gas emissions, and that can be actually used as offset for us in the future. So actually takes us there to that path where we actually will be complying with MEPC 83 with the biomethane when it comes. Now, biomethane, the advantage of biomethane is that it is a drop-in fuel, meaning we have to make no changes in the ship infrastructure, in the ship engines, also in the infrastructure ashore. There has to be no changes made, and it's a molecule that is injected, so it is easily used on board the ships. So actually, without making any further investment, we are able to use LBM or biomethane on our ships, and that is going to get us past 2040. Then comes the third stage, which is the synthetic LNG, which I hope by that time there is technological advancements to the effect where we will be able to use synthetic LNG, which will get us definitely past 2050. So we do see that while we were one of the first ones to actually invest in this technology, we do see that quite a few other shipping lines, which is related to our business in containers, are actually changing from ammonia to LNG, knowing that the future is LNG in terms of the use case that is there in the future. So we will be able to actually use this, these ships, we are hoping, till 2050 easily. So I think the path is quite well structured. And also we saw recently that IMO has confirmed the LNG pathway. When this was explained to IMO, they have already accepted it, and hopefully that this is going to go into the future in the same manner.
Very good. So yeah, there's a couple of options here, methanol and LNG. There's also ammonia has been mentioned. Just another quick poll. LNG, methanol, or ammonia, or something else? LNG? Okay, that's a good hand. Methanol? And you probably can raise your hand more than once, I guess. So yeah, B is. And ammonia. Okay. There are some. Any others? Anybody in the audience want to shout out another option? Nuclear, yes, of course. Nuclear is the ultimate. I think that was part of Christine's slide, and I 100% agree. And I'm very fascinated by what is happening in terms of molten salt reactors. Maybe hydrogen, yes, definitely. Now, Atul, you mentioned the IMO, what they have done, what they're producing. I hear a lot being talked about these credits and being able to trade them and so forth. I don't know, and this is just me, maybe the pessimistic or the skeptical me, will that really reduce the price gap between green fuels and black fuels? Because at the moment, we know that, at least for some of the shipping lines, it's cheaper to go ahead and pay the fine, and it will be cheaper for quite a few years than to actually convert to green fuel. Carbon credits. I saw John Lowe in the room. There you are. Can I ask, what do you think that, how can carbon credits help accelerate decarbonization in this area? Then I do want to invite the room, anybody in the audience, to ask questions, because we do have an expert panel, and you can also ask questions to other people in the audience. So be thinking about any questions that you might like to ask. John.
Thank you, Roberto. This is John Lowe from Asia Carbon Institute. We are a carbon crediting organization. I think if we draw a parallel to the aviation industry, the CORSIA requirements do allow carbon offsets. And that is a significant and very important tool for the industry to decarbonize. And this is the first time we heard a lot of talks about using alternative fuels. The infrastructure cost of doing this energy transition is significant. So I do believe carbon credit is a very viable tool to accelerate this journey. And you know, many examples we've seen in the aviation industry is actually not just carbon credit. You need the blended financing in order to really finance new infrastructures and at the same time run the existing infrastructure in parallel. So I do believe carbon credits will be a very important tools as offsetting tools and also as a financing tools to accelerate those investment that is needed.
Thank you. Thank you very much, John. I appreciate that. Let me open up the floor. We have just a few minutes left. I have one more question to ask, but let me open up the floor to any questions that you might have for the panel or for anybody in the room. Go ahead and raise your hand and we'll get a microphone to you. Otherwise, while you can always interrupt me. A question that I'll come back to the panel, and then I'll ask also the audience. If you could put together a wish list. We have a lot of people here from industry as well as government. If we could put a wish list together for government, since a lot of people raise their hand as the first, they need to be the first movers. Whether it be Hong Kong, Guangdong, China government, what would you include on that wish list that you would see as necessary for helping us getting over this hump that we're facing? Yeah, go ahead and start with you, Alex.
Crikey. There's quite a big wish list there. I mean, we start, education is one part. So Christine Lowe mentioned that, and I think about the training. That's really important. Getting the infrastructure right. Getting all the people around the table talking together as well. The governments can make that happen. There's no charterers here in the room, apparently. They also are part of the key. I've heard mention about scope emissions, but that's not really a driving factor yet. I think it's getting there in some sectors, and the container market may be closer, but there needs to be more pressure put on the end user as well. I think that's going to make a big difference. BIMCO, for example, have all the clauses there. They maybe have to put some more in now after this MEPC 83, but they've got EEXI transition clause, CII clause, fuel EU maritime, retrofit cost benefit clauses, but they're not really being taken up by the charterer. So I think the government can also assist there. And then it's really just listening to the industry, listening to the owners and the Chamber of Shipping, and really getting the infrastructure there. Because it needs to be there for the owners to be able to use it and the operators.
Okay, very good. Hing, as a ship owner of multiple different types of ships?
Only two things, again, just so happens, on my wish list. One is a global commitment and vision for sustainability, which at this moment in time of fragmented globalization, I'm not sure everyone's tending towards the same direction. IMO, as I said previously, I wasn't optimistic that the best outcome come out of that particular discussion because of a lot of national interests. They're not aligned. Some are further down the road of decarbonization. Some have more of a head start. Some are much lower down the road in terms of economic empowerment. And therefore, how to align everyone's interest, tending towards the betterment of humanity and the planet. I think that's probably the starting point. I think the IMO sent out a very strong signal. They are committed. However, we also saw a very big white elephant in the room. Well, not a white elephant. It's very, very, obvious that one of the most important nations in the world have withdrawn from such climate commitments. That gives me concern and worry. But at the same time, the rest of the world is tending towards that common vision and goal of creating a more sustainable. That provides a floor. That's the starting point. To make it happen, mechanism for engagement, dialogue, and collaboration. What is the mechanism that we work across the supply chain? I think that's something that Hong Kong Chamber of Shipping, with all of us here, are trying to do. The government has sent out a very strong signal. They want to work closer with industry on multiple fronts to come up with a common plan. I think that's a very good start. But Hong Kong, we don't work in isolation. We're part of the GBA. How do we reach across the border and come up with a mechanism? I've been in multiple discussions and meetings at various levels with government, with industry. Everyone wants that, but that mechanism, at the moment is still lacking. And then there's a national mechanism, regional mechanism, global mechanism. So only two things I wish: common vision and a mechanism to make it happen.
So common vision, does anybody have a red line to President Trump? Nobody does. But U.S. not being there, I think China has the opportunity here to be the leader. And so that's why one reason we're very grateful to Chamber of Shipping for helping us here. Atul?
Yeah. Okay, so for us, very clear, a short-term requirement in Hong Kong is LNG bunkering inside the Kwai Chung terminal. Now, this is very important. We have so many ships, LNG ships, which are coming to South China. They are unable to bunker in Kwai Chung because there's no facility available. So that's a key and easy requirement, I think, that can be done very quickly. And the second, I think, to me is, looking at Europe with the EU ETS and Fuel EU, all those regulations that they put in there, why can't we do that over here to make sure that we can take advantage from what we can get from the industry? In terms of, they even put penalties. Why can't the biggest producer of fuel, the biggest cargo producer of the world is here? The biggest ports in the world are here. So I think the power to make those changes is here. And we should be able to make those changes here to put in those regulations, which IMO should follow later on. Why is it the other way around, that we are trying to follow the European regulations which are in place today with the EU ETS and Fuel EU? So I think this is where we need to step out of the comfort zone and actually push for new regulations which can benefit the GBA, which we are not thinking of. And this is food for thought, actually.
Thank you very much. I agree fully with that. Sunny?
I think most of the wishes have been covered by our panelists. But I would say a wish list for the government is to really provide a collaborative platform for each stakeholder to talk to each other. Let's say fuel producer, our users, ship owners, ship operators, even charterers and also cargo owners, so that everyone is on the same page and working towards the same goal. That's number one. And I think the government should also roll out action plan that is, let's say, consistent with the IMO ambition to achieve, net zero, as well as its midterm measures, and also to align with China's policy on green transformation. And that's very key because we need to ride on it in order to reinforce Hong Kong's commitment to develop as a, green infrastructure, green port and terminal. So all of this adding together, then we will gain our competitive edge, and that's also how Hong Kong can stand out from its current position.
Thank you. We're out of time, but I just want to offer the floor opportunity, the audience. Throw out one word. What is it that you want on your wish list? you guys have everything you need. If there's nothing else, then why don't we give a round of applause to the panel, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. I think you probably want lunch. Anyway, but before lunch, there will still be the second panel to come. May we please welcome Ms. Freda Fung as the moderator, and her panelists are Captain Zhao from Huaguang Leung, CMIC, Enrico WEI Zhao, and Mr. WANG Ke, please.
各位早上好，今天我们已经听到了很多非常好的一些建议，非常好的一些观点。我们现在的这个原作讨论，主要是用这个普通话来讲。主要的原因是什么呢？因为就是刚才大家都听到，其实香港就是在中国的一个部分，然后我们其实是有很多的一些条件可以尽快推动这个零排放转型，全部的零排放转型的，所以我们也希望今天的这个圆桌会议，特别有那么多的一个好的专家在我们的这个讨论会之中，可以讨论一下关于，特别是带我们回来在中国这边的最新的一些发展，包括在这个新燃料的一个生产，在这个整个供应链的一个发展，也包括不同的港口的一些新的一些措施，我们可以在这个圆桌论坛上面可以讨论一下。我是冯淑慧，在这个气候工作基金会也不详细介绍各会了。一会大家可以我们讨论的时候，大家可以看看我们的名字。要不我就先启动讲第一个问题吧。刚才的这个讨论里边，其实提到过这个要加速快速发展这个绿色燃料供应的。我们都知道，在目前的情况之下，其实中国有挺多的这个绿色燃料供应的这个条件。我们在座有一位专家来自于中远的，其实他们也考虑过很多的这个情景，看怎么样可以到最后达到这个零排放的这个目标。要不我先请王博士分享一下，从这个理会这个中远考虑的这个零排放转型的这个技术路线上面，有什么的一些最主要需要考虑的一些因素？因为我们都熟悉到这个绿色甲醇绿色胺的这些发展得很快，你可不可以提供一些最新的一些发展的一些条件、一些进展，让大家听一下？谢谢。
各位来宾、各位专家大家早上好。我们中远海运集团呢，是从2022年开始呢，就是为了应对就是欧盟的EU ETS、FuelEU Maritime 还有 IMO 的就是个航运减碳这个战略，然后呢开始研究就是能源转型。这个工作呢是由我们集团领导的，然后我们香港中远海运呢是主要参与者之一。经过1年多的研究，大概在2023年年中左右吧，我们当时呢就根据这种不同燃料的绿色燃料发展的情况呢，就制定了一个初步的，就是现阶段的这个选择，就是呢以建设绿色甲醇产业链为主，并同时关注其他可替代能源的发展状况，来就是建立我们的就是新能源船队以及那个脱碳的路径。当时呢，我们主要对比了 LNG、绿色甲醇、液氨还有氯氢4种能源，然后呢，我们选择了甲醇呢，主要基于以下5个方面。第一个呢，甲醇是唯一有商业就是主机的一个那个燃料。第二呢，就是新建、改建以及运营和维修这种双燃料船中呢，甲醇双燃料船是成本最低的。第3个呢，就是结合甲醇它在常温下是液态这个特性，它的储运加注成本也是最低的。 第4个呢，就是说，在当时来看，在船舶上运用，就燃料运用以及加注的规则上面，甲醇是这个相对完善的，其他一些燃料当时还没有。然后最后一个呢，就是说，根据中国的国情来说呢，目前呢就是4种就是可替代能源中啊，电制的成本都是高于生物质的。那么从就是中国的特点来说呢，绿色生物质甲醇的生产应该是在起步阶段成本应该是最低的啊，是这样5个原因。然后呢，为了推动，就是说我们的整个就是能源转型，我们集团呢是作为航运公司来说，是算是首次吧，自己参与了就是建设整个就是绿色甲醇的产业链。这个其中第一个方面就是建造船队。截至目前为止呢，不完全统计，我们已经定制和改造了30多条，就是船舶可以使用就是甲醇作为那个燃料。然后第2个呢，就是我们主动参与绿色甲醇的生产，这里面呢就给我们香港中远海运的定位呢是我们把这个整个甲醇产业链分为4个环节，一个是生产、运输、加注和船端应用。船端应用就是我们建造的船队。那么剩下3个环节中呢，我们香港中远海运呢就是负责就是燃料的生产和燃料加注这2个环节进行投资。我们在2023年9月呢和中国电力我们首先从集团层面，在2023年，我们与国家电投、上港集团，还有这个中国中检，就是签署了战略合作的备忘录。然后根据这个备忘录呢，我们在2024年2月与极电股份、上港能源还有我们成立了第一家这个合资公司。在推动在吉林省建立绿色甲醇的生产企业，其中我们参股35%。这个就是我们第一个项目是建立在这个吉林4坪梨树，预计产能20万吨，计划是今年年中开工建设，2026年下半年能够试生产。与此同时呢，我们还布局在因为东南亚也是农业国很多，所以呢那里有丰富的就是生物炭资源，所以我们也和正大集团就是进行了目前就是接触，然后呢我们看看可不可以在东南亚也寻求一个合适的地方建设绿色甲醇的生产企业。就是通过未来吧，我们肯定就是我们中短期我们现在是专注于绿色甲醇，但是未来我们相信就是大家刚才说的就是绿色 LNG 或者液氨也会有它的这个市场，所以我们也会持续关注，找到合适我们的，而且能够进一步降低转型成本的就是可持续燃料啊！谢谢大家。
谢谢你，王博士，你都说得很清楚，关于这个一步一步是怎么做我也请Captain Zhao 是姐姐，你也帮忙我一下问一些问题吧。就作为这个副主持人，这个共同主持人，可能你也可以提问一下，谢谢。
好，谢谢 Freda。我是ZHOU Jianfeng，来自华光海运。那我本人的专业背景，大家看到我是个船长，因为我在做船的时候呢，我从事过那个成品油轮。原油轮包括这个气体船的运输，其中有一部分时间是专门运输阿莫尼亚的这个气体船的运输。所以今天很荣幸，这个被 Freda 邀请我来协助他一起主持这个节目，主持这个讨论环节。其实主持谈不上，就是说我可能在某些方面，因为 有自己的专业背景，所以有一些了解，我就协助那个 Freda 问一个问题。我接下来想问杨总的哈，那个中级艾瑞克的杨总，刚才那个与会的这个很多的这个前面的讲者，包括 Freda 都讲到了。这个在绿色转型的时候呢，我们地处这个香港作为一国两制的一个中国的一个地方，我们有个非常独特的优势。其中一个优势，我本人理解就是中国强大的制造业。中国强大制造业优势是非常明显的。咱们中集集团这个尤其是一个中国制造业这个突出的一个代表。咱们听这个名字中集集团，这个大家以为它只是做集装箱，它其实它的涉及的产业链远远超越集装箱这个产业链，它有很强大的制造业方面的一些优势。所以今天呢，我们很荣幸邀请了这个中集安瑞科的杨总来给我们分享一下，他们已经非常前瞻性的这个部署和投资了这个绿色甲醇的生产。所以说，我想请杨总分享一下这个。从您的角度来讲，有哪些技术的进展能够帮助降低这个绿色能源的这个包括那个甲醇，包括氨的这个生产、运输这方面的一个成本？谢谢杨总，请。
谢谢周船长的介绍啊。那我来自于中集安瑞科啊，中集安瑞科是中集集团这个控股70%的一家在香港的上市公司。我们涉及的业务主要是围绕清洁能源的从制、储、运、加到应用的关键装备以及核心工艺。所涉及到的清洁能源包括氢啊，当然也有天然气，包括甲醇，包括合成氨啊，这都是我们涉足的领域啊。然后这个我们的愿景啊，我觉得Chun也说的很重要，愿景使命很重要。我们公司的愿景是希望用自己产品的进步，用我们工艺的提升啊，我们叫 process technology 啊，让清洁能源的应用更加的安全、更加的广泛、更加的全面啊。所以啊，这是我们做的事情啊。所以基于此的话，这个我们也自己尝试投资了啊，这个首个我们的这个生物质甲醇的示范项目，就在湛江啊，在大湾区啊，我理解这个区位啊，应该也是未来可以很好的支撑大湾区，包括我们香港在绿色加注的这样的一个战略转型的一个支撑点。然后在这个整个的这个项目里面呢，当然我们用到了很多一些关键技术和一些创新的一些装置然后围绕您提到的一个成本啊，我理解在整个绿色能源转型里面特别是从这里面也提到了 e-methanol 或者是 e-ammonia， 可能和绿电也有关联我理解整个这个绿色的氢氨醇的产业链，它的技术进步或者技术的瓶颈或者要突破的，应该是有3个阶段。第一阶段就是我们刚才王博士说的生物质至绿色甲醇我理解这项这个工艺的突破是最容易实现和最容易规模化，成本也可控所以我们的规划是，我们的目标是在8月选个好日子，8月8号我们的产线会建成第四季度开始生产我们也希望能够为大湾区包括香港提供一些首次的一些绿色的燃料然后在这个装置里面呢，当然这个我刚才想到生物质因为首先我们这里面用了我们自己产品自己设计的气化炉，是一个生物质气化炉那它的技术难点呢，那可能其实我们说生物质其实再放个几百万年就是煤我们现在烧的煤在提前几百万年就是生物质，所以它唯一的其实怎么样去解决当它烧的去气化的这些生物质，从煤可能是比较这个能量密度高更纯净没有杂质变成有水分有杂质然后还要持续稳定的生产出合成气，所以气化炉装置是最核心的。所以我们的首个5万吨的示范用了我们这个长期测试最成熟的技术同时我们是5加20万吨的示范，我们的2期今年年底就会启动会用我们这个第2代的产品。 第二代我们会再提升压力啊，包括这个更多的这个生物质的可燃烧性啊，因为如果你只能烧一种生物质，换一种生物质，它的杂质可能会不一样，有些会含重金属，所以装置不能连续生产。所以这个方面，我们的第二代在气化炉上会有一些特别的装置的一个提升啊。所以是生物质气化，我理解是我们第一步的技术难度。然后第二步呢，可能就是绿电制氢。那绿电制氢呢，就是一个风电、光电啊，尤其是风电、光电，它是不可解、不连续，它有波动。啊，不连续不波动的话，那它面对的电解槽实际上是第二个这个产业需要突破的技术难点。但这个技术难点呢，应该还需要有一段时间去突破。那这里面它大概率的可能性啊，可能就像今天的电池管理一样，就你有很多的电池，有一个 battery management system， 有 BMS 来管理。那未来可能的突破要连续制氢啊，有可能是还是我理解是大型的电力公司可以发挥作用，它也用一个叫 electrolyzer management system， 就不同的 electrolyzer， 然后它用一个电力的综合管理的一个微秒级的一个管理系统，让每个电解槽能够更加稳定的运行，可以持续生产氢气。这是第二块。那这一块呢，我理解啊，这个产业特别是内地的很多的示范都在推进中。然后第三块的话就是氢气，如果连续生产出来的氢气怎么存储是个压力啊。按照我们目前的测算，如果中国的这个东北可能绿电产出来的，比如风光，可能电是2毛钱，然后做成氢，电解质氢可能也就是9块钱，但一存储就到25块钱了，所以储氢是个大麻烦啊。所以我们这一块又有另外一个产品啊，我们有一个液驱式的这个储氢装置啊，这个我们的中型的示范已经完成啊，明年年初会有一个规模型的示范。啊，我们是通一个液驱的一个方式，把储氢的成本能够下降30%到40%啊，所以这也是一个技术方面的一些突破吧啊。我想就在这几个层面，就是整个未来的氢安存全面打通的话，可能这几步都要去逐步的突破。但是第一步还是生物质啊，应该是我们可以按照我们的测算。按照当前的应该是足够去有竞争力的去服务市场的需求。刚才说的30、50应该都是在可以服务的范围内。
好，非常感谢这个杨总跟我们分享一下。我觉得就是我之前跟一些生产这个可再生能源，包括这个绿色的这个航运燃料也提到过，就是虽然现在是生物质的这样的一些燃料，但是如果随着有更多的一个技术上面的一些突破，刚才也提到过在 gasifier 这块，包括怎么做好这个电解，更好利用这个可再生能源，包括风跟这个光伏，其实他们通常是互相互配的，所以我们怎么样可以更好解决这个它的这个波动性的这个特点，怎么可以精好的内容，也包括刚才提到这个储能吧，储能可以是氢，可以是电池各方面的这些突破其实都需要有一个动力。但是我觉得刚才我们之前的这个圆桌会议，其实早上也提到过，现在好的地方就是已经有这个 IMO 的这个最高的这个政策帮忙推动，令到我们现在的一些企业，包括中远，包括中植，在这方面的一些投资，终于可以看到有一个更确定的一个这个政策的这个环境来推动这个事所以反过来来到香港的这个情况吧，就是刚才早上的时候，其实处长Mable 他也提到过，就是我觉得香港已经有这个决心来做一个亚洲甚至全球的一个绿色燃料的一个供应的一个基地但是怎么走第一步，怎么一步一步走下去，走得更快，学到其他人的经验，可以改善，令到我们可以做得更好，令到香港可以服务中国，服务亚洲我想提问一个问题吧，就是要问Captain Zhao你其实也跟这个华光在这个上海的时候，其实支持上海在这个 甲醇加注提供这个甲醇加注这一方面是其中一份子你可不可以分享一下从这个上海这方面的一个经验，怎么样可以建议香港有什么样的一个部署？可以令到香港可以利用在大湾区这个，或者是香港自己本身的特点，可以尽快做好一个好的一个绿色燃料加注中心，提供一些既便宜、这个成本效益高，而且这个质量是好的一个燃料呢？
好，谢谢主持人。对华光海运这个很多的航运的朋友都知道华光海运是一个船东企业，但其实我们现在做的这个业务呢，也除了船东企业之外，还做其他的技术服务和经营服务。其中技术服务板块很荣幸，在那个上海港口集团在打造绿色港口这个他们的这个大的发展策略底下呢，我们作为第一批被他们选为这个技术合作伙伴。从2022年开始，他们做第一个绿色的那个 LNG 加注的时候，华光就作为他一个这个技术管理人。然后到2023年做甲醇，开始启动甲醇的时候，华光又再次被选为他们甲醇的那个加注方面的一个技术合作伙伴。所以现在华光的话，有在为上海港口集团管理2条 LNG 加注，一条是他们租进的，一条他们是拥有的，包括一条甲醇加注船。所以我来简单回顾一下那个上海港口集团它怎么来建设这个甲醇加注服务的。首先我第一点感受，它有一个非常坚强的、非常一个 strong 的一个 commitment 嘛，这个政府的这个背景很深。这个当时他们给我们分享，这绝对是这个上海市政府一把手陈吉宁书记亲自下的命令，要求这个上海港口集团作为上海的一个龙头企业，这个国企要担当起这个责任。这个所以刚才那个 Roberto 在这个询问下面，我也是举手，这个政府必须要这个角色，没人能够取代，没人能够取代。因为在做这个事情的时候，如果让私人企业去投，这个其实还是或者说让那个 Line 去投的话，都是一个先有鸡还是先有蛋的问题。私人企业去投的时候，大家要看 demand 在哪里，需求在哪里。那个然后让那个我们的 Line 这个船公司去开始动的时候，他会看供应在哪里，大家都看不到，大家都在等。这个时候，政府的角色就非常关键。政府必须要先行的从一些政策上的，从一些甚至财政的资源方面。你上海港口集团其实就利用国企这个平台，就是一个用另外一种方式，一种坚强的财政支持来推动这个他们项目，所以推进的很快。2023年3月份立项，2024年4月份就开始做加注测试。2023年，他们当然在这个过程当中，这个除了政府的这个强大的推动能力，其中也有还有一个国际的合作伙伴，他们和马士基签署了那个战略合作协议。所以第2年1年之后，他们就做了这个加注测试。其中他们那时候找不到船，其实这个对甲醇加注船对比 LNG 加注船的话，要求还相对比较低的，他们就买一艘2手船来做改装，改装完了，这个其实半年就能搞定所有的事情。当然了，在这个过程当中，政府还有很多事情要做，要拿到那个加注的资格证书，要在海关、边防这个很多海事方面通过一系列的这个手续办完，他们就做了这方面的一个工作，所以说整个过程完成的很顺利。但是我刚才讲了，为什么还有一个就是政府在资金方面的支持也很重要了，因为要推动这个发展，作为一个先行新势的这个 first mover， 它是要投入大量的这个精力的，甚至来说是成本。整个这条加注船在2024年，它是只做了1次加注而已，但是他们一条船养一条船做1次加注，那可想而知这个成本，一般的这个私人企业去投资是很难去承受的。但是这个时候政府的这个推动能力就彰显出来。然后到今年开始，这个加注的量慢慢就起来了。今年其实1到3月份，它已经做了6次加注了。 甲醇的加注，当然有2次是氯甲醇的，还有4次是灰甲醇的，也有人现在在加灰甲醇。那个我刚才在这个休息时间也和那个下面的专家讨论了，灰甲醇它也有对这个EU ETS 啊，或者说对 IMO 的那个 CR rating， 它还是有一些帮助，再加价格也比较便宜。所以对比这个上海港口集团的这个项目，我看到这个咱们在湾区推动这个，是我们也有那个，确实是首先一定要尽快去做希望也能够从政府层面能给多一点这个支持资源，把这个往前做。还有一个，我们这边也有我们的这边的优势。这个刚才讲了，这个刚开始的时候甲醇加注的量很少，上海作为这个全世界第1大港，它这个优势很明显。但是我们有湾区优势，我们的规模效应其实不差于上海港。如果我们能够联合那个香港、深圳、广州，把这个湾区的这个概念把它融合在一起，我们应该是个更大的一个市场，更有规模效应。再加上我们有中级安瑞科的这个成本优势放在这边，又在华南地区华南地区运输到香港的这个运具，这个从 well to tank 的这个优势方面也是非常明显的。我们另外还有一个制度优势在这边，对不对？我们在这个如果在做后面的一些这个海关的清关啊，包括后面的这个融资啊相关的科技啊方面，来支持这个绿色加注的，这可能要比其他地方呢更有一些优势。所以说我们觉得这个机遇非常难得，但是我们需要更多的这个政府层面的支持。谢谢。
好，谢谢您，谢谢你，周厂长。你刚才就提到过成本的这个问题，就包括为什么会有传统想用这个灰甲醇，是，所以我就想借着这个问题吧，就可能也请王博士给一点就分享一下你的想法吧。就是可能有人会说，香港就相对于上海吧，就我们跟这个东北跟内蒙古可能远一点，所以可能成本上面我们还要加进去这个远一点的这个距离。你从这个大湾区或者是香港的角度来看，你觉得香港应该怎么样来选择我们从哪一个地区来买这些绿色燃料是最划算，或者是可以把握一些机会，可以采购到一些最好质量或者是成本效益最高的一些绿色燃料呢？
好，谢谢啊。因为确实，中国的主要就是作为生物质甲醇来用呢，秸秆、玉米秸秆是最好的材料之一，因为它主要在东北3省，所以呢，从运具以及在运输过程的碳排放来说呢，香港并不占优势。但是呢，其实我们可以借鉴新加坡。其实，新加坡它也是有这种生物质甲醇，因为它也走这条路嘛，它也想这个采用。其实它的定位就是东南亚。其实，在从东南亚来说，香港和新加坡这种距离优势是差不多的。而且呢，由于甲醇的热值低，它的加注的次数肯定是要多于现在的燃油的，所以呢，我相信未来的加注点会比现在更为广泛，所以香港还是有机会的。其次，第二呢，我们现在谈的生物质甲醇，以后呢，如果是液氨还有电子甲醇出现，其实在大湾区也是有地区有竞争优势的，比如广西。广西的海上风电资源是非常丰富的如果是走电子甲醇，那么广西是一个很有潜力可挖的一个地方，因为广西现在比如我们出口越南的电，主要都是广西的风电就是这样的。好，谢谢。
谢谢。所以我觉得这个要提前部署，是这个非常重要的一点。特别是我们在什么地方成立这些生产的基地，也都是要考虑到这个原材料的这个成本来源。但是另外一点，其实刚才这个周船长也提到过，就是你也提到过，就是上海港这边其实就是因为这个政府有这个 commitment。就是有这个想法，一定是要做一个第一个港口可以提供这个加注。你提到另外一点就是需要有这个安全 的考虑，需要有这些制定一些好的一些技术的一个指引。在上海的这个经验下面，其实是不是现在已经有所有的这个甲醇加注的这些规则，是不是已经出台？是不是香港现在要做这个事情，其实可以参考很多不同的这个地方的一些原来的一些经验呢？是不是已经我们现在已经有这个好好的这个参考的这个样板？我可能问这个你回答之后，我可能也请教这个魏先生这方面。
那个感谢那个主持人。那个其实从我们做船呢，因为做船长的，我个人觉得这些都不是问题。这些都不是，这个最重要的问题就是怎么去把这个事情做成一个 business case， 就是说令到这个投资者在参与的这个供应链里面那个有利可图。所以刚才讲的这个刚开始的时候，在市场在没有完全起来这个时候，政府能够推动，这非常重要。刚才讲的这个纯技术问题，包括这个船怎么准备从一个现有的化工品船改装成这个甲醇加注船，这对我们来讲做技术服务的这个是非常简单的一个事情。然后包括做一些技术的这个一些安全的一些措施的这个要求，其实上海港口集团这个在我们的积极参与之下呢，也有一套已经非常完整的行之有效的这个包括 ING 的。包括那个甲醇的一直在用的，在这方面呢，这个我想卖个关子，因为下午我们有一位我们那个华光海运华光那个船舶管理公司总经理他会详细介绍一下这个在我们在做甲醇加注的这个有哪些要求，这些这个完全符合海事和方面的要求。如果香港在这块有这方面的一个需求，那个我本人也好，我们的同事也可以非常乐意去分享我们在上海港方面的一些经验。所以对我来讲的话，这些都是还是比较简单的。谢谢。
谢谢。那我要不邀请魏先生也介绍一下吧，就是在制定一些规则上面，如何香港能够加快这个步伐，令到我们香港作为一个加注港可以提供这个最有优势的、最好条件的，而且可以安全的提供这样的一些新的燃料了。
首先非常感谢 Freda 的这个提问。首先自我介绍，我叫魏钊，来自这个意大利团结社，那么主要负责这个减碳和这个新能源方面的这个技术支持工作，也一直呢从事这块的这一个技术推广吧。那么就是说，针对这个Freda这个问题呢，其实我呢还是很荣幸，想分享一下，就是不光包括你问的这个问题，其实我们 RENA 作为这个船机社，也作为这一个第三方的这个技术咨询服务公司呢，我们在过去呢也参与了这个很多的这个绿色能源的这个加注的这个服务。那么在这个服务里面，我们也有一些自己的经验或者一些理解。那么我其实也更愿意给大家分享一下，就是我们在这个绿色能源加注港口的建设上呢，我们的一些理解吧。就是我把这些呢大概分成了这个几大类吧。第一类呢，就是我有3点呢，我认为是这一个基础的一个条件或者一个考虑吧，就是说为了推进这个绿色港口建设的一个必要的这些条件。这个跟我们这个 MEPC 这个目标一样，我们分了2层。第一层呢是 basic 的，第二个呢是这个我们叫更优化的这个服务。那么第二块呢，我是有2点要求呢，也是叫做叫竞争性的这一些条件，就是说怎么能够把我们这个港口建设的更有竞争力。那么第一块的三个基础条件呢，第一个呢就是大家刚才也都讲过了，就是说政府呢就是说在这块呢肯定是需要有一个非常强的一个主导作用。那么刚才大家也投票了，肯定都一致的认为这个我们的政府需要起到这个极其重要的一个推进作用。那么从另外一个角度看呢，我们香港呢大家也都知道，刚刚早上那个交通运输的这个致辞里面也提到，就是我们这个香港呢也是这个全球船舶燃料加注的这个排名前7的这个港口。那么在这个船舶的这一个大的这个减碳的这一个背景下呢，我们这个香港作为这个一个靠前的一个加注港呢，我们也有责任和义务去推进这个绿色燃料加注的这一个步伐。 那么这个是第一个，所以说政府呢在这块呢，至少它需要有信心，或者是它有一个很明确的这个愿景，我要去做这个事情，我也要有步骤、有计划的这个逐步的去实施，那么这个才能是有一个比较好的一个开端或者一个启动嘛。否则政府如果不启动嘛，就刚才我们也介绍了，就是如果你私企啊或者其他的这个民企去推动的话，这个其实肯定很困难的一件事情。那么从早上呢，我们这个交通运输的这个支持呢，我们觉得呢，这个香港在这块呢，应该是已经这个条件已经满足了，因为政府方面已经有这个比较明确的愿景，我们要加快推进我们的这个香港作为这一个全球这个绿色燃料加注的这个港口。那么第二个基本条件呢，这个其实也很明显的，就是说是我们的这一些基础设施的这一个完备的这个条件。那么我们整个船舶行业在采用这个各种替代能源或者绿色能源呢，其实最大的一个限制条件就是这个加注基础设施。那么我们在港口加注呢，其实目前比较流行的就是可能是这个储罐，通过储罐，然后通过这个加注臂加注到这个船上，或者是通过槽车，那么小型一点的。那么另外一个呢，就是比较方便的就是加注船。那么我们知道这些这个硬件的基础设施的这个从这个布局规划到建设都是需要很长的这个周期，尤其是储罐的建设，它还可能涉及到你的选址啊这些。那么刚才也讲了，就是比如说我们这个加注船，你要这个新建或者改装，也是需要一定时间的这个提前量的。那么也就是说在这块呢，就是说政府可能也是需要起到一个引导作用，那么就是说鼓励我们的相关的这一个相关方，比如说这个 oil supplier 或者是我们这个输注船的这个燃料船的这个船东啊，我们来一起去做相关的这一个调研或者是一起论证，那么我们来提前布局，那么我们相关的这一个就是说储罐也好，加注船也好，我们在什么一个时间点，我们要把这些东西陆陆续续的这个完备起来，为这一个绿色燃料的加注呢，提供一个最基本的条件嘛，这应该。那么第三个这个基本条件呢，其实最主要呢还是这个安全方面，就是基于你的这个问题也提到了，就是我们大家都知道现在的这些绿色燃料或者替代燃料呢，都是要么就是有毒，要么有爆炸风险，或者要么有腐蚀性。那么这些特性呢，导致了这些新燃料呢，对这个尤其像香港，我们这边有大量的这个居民在附近的话，这个影响是非常大的，不管是从爆炸也好，从这个环境污染的角度也好，还是从这个腐蚀啊其他的一些考虑，那么也就是说安全的这一个肯定是重中之重的一个问题。那么从这个政府角度呢，其实这个安全问题呢，也只有政府角度才能去主导这个事情，对吧？就是说他来去出面去准备相关的这一个技术标准，或者也就是说可接受的标准。因为我们所有的这个现在新燃料的加注呢，提前我们都要做相应的论证，还要得到这个政府的审批。那么政府如果他没有标准的话，那我们接受这个审批，这个整个过程都没法执行，对吧？那么这个也就是说，是我们其实也意识到呢，就是说，香港的这个海事处呢，也是在今年的我记得1月份吧，他们也颁发了这个替代燃料的这一个加注的这么一个要求。我们当时也看了一下，其实里面呢，目前包括呢，可能主要还是 LNG。那么其实像其他的甲醇啊、生物燃料或者是这个氨啊，其实目前应该还没包括。那么内容方面呢，它其实更多的我感觉它还是指引到这个行业的一些普通的一些基本标准。那么这一块呢，其实就是说，在它发布 LNG 的这个版本的这个前提下，我们认为当然是这个第一步已经迈出了。那么后面可能还有很多后续的工作需要这个完善和更新。那么比如说这个我们不同其他的这个燃料的这个需求，还有一个就是说我个人理解，就是说你现在的这个所有的标准呢，都是基于一个，比如说我们的这个 IGF 也好呀，或者是这个国际港口协会的这些 checklist 也好呀，那么这些标准呢，都是一些很 general 的，就是说很常规的一些要求。那么如果我们这个香港要打造成我们更有竞争优势的这么一个绿色燃料的加注港，那么我们肯定要做更多的这一个调研工作。那么我们要在这个安全可接受的程度下，能够尽量的比如说减少这个我们整个审批的流程啊，能够便于我们整个加注方或者受注方的一些操作呀。这些呢，就是说提升我们的这个后期的这个加注效率呢，这个是非常重要的一个事情。就是比如说，如果我们只是一 general 的这个要求，那大家别人做你怎么做的话，可能就体现不出来你的这个优势所在了。那么另外一点，其实我也记得吧，就是它里面的这个 LNG 的加注的这个 permission 好像就是 一个船对应另外一个船，就是同样的船吧，它的一个 permission 只适用1年，也就是说你明年哪怕同样的船做，你还得要重新做这个审批，那这个只是一个方面吧。这个就是说，也就是说我从这些角度呢，也就是说我们政府还是有很多这个提升的空间在安全这个方面的，不光是 follow 我们现在的这些行业的一些标准。那么这个是这个我觉得是前面3个这个比较基础的这个条件。那么后面的2个呢，我认为是一个就是提升我们这个香港作为这个更有竞争性的这一个绿色燃料加入港的一些竞争条件呢。第一个呢，就是说刚才大家也都提及了这个成本，对吧？那么我们现在的这些绿色燃料呢，在上周的这个 MEPC83次会议呢，我们也引入了这个 GFI 的概念。那么 GFI 呢，也是基于这个燃料的全生命周期的这一个排放的考核，那么包括燃料的生产或者你在哪里生产，运输的距离是多远，那这个都涉及到你这个成本。那当然不光是成本，还有包括这个燃料的整个全生命周期的这个温室气体强度的这个数值。那么我讲的意思呢，也就是说，我们的要提升我们的这个加注港的竞争能力的，我们确实还是需要找到这个我个人讲的就是最有性价比的这么一个绿色燃料嘛。就是说不光是这个成本更低，但是我也要就是说我的这个全生命周期的这个温室气体强度也是比较低的一个最性价比的一个燃料。那么这个呢也肯定也是我们这个香港作为这个最有竞争力港口的这一个竞争性的一个条件。除了这个成本之外呢，其实我觉得还有一个就是其实我刚刚也提到了，就是这个工作效率，就是说政府方面呢，其实在这一个相关的一个 guideline 或者是这个指导文件的这个建立的基础上呢，我们需要与行业内的相关方来做更多的这个调研或者一个分析，那么能够完善我们的包括这些接收的标准 criteria， 还有一个就是我们的这个工作流程上的简化，就是让我们的整个加注的这一个从审批到这个执行到最后这个结束能够更高效的进行。那么也是为了给我们的这个加注方、输出方都提供更多的便利，那么大家也都会更愿意来我们的这个香港做这个加注的这个服务。那么这个呢是我分享的就是我们基于我们前面的一些加注经验的一些基本条件的一些分享吧。那么其实我们 RENA 作为这个传奇设计这一块呢，我们从去年年底吧，应该到现在应该大概有半年的时间，我们在香港的这个 LNG 加注和这个绿色加注的这一块呢，也是有很多的这个参与的工作。就是说我们在这个2月底给他们做了这个大概1周的这一个 LNG 的相关的这个技术培训。那么我们也作为这个传奇社，作为这个 RO 呢，也是给他们参与他们 review 他们这个前期 LNG 的这个 ship-to-ship bunkering 的这一个风险分析的一个报告。那么作为这个第三方的话，那个技术咨询第三方呢，我们也可以提供这个风险分析，或者是这个整个加注的这个服务的这个管理。那么在这块呢，我们也是愿意一如既往的吧，为我们的这个香港的这个绿色加注港的建设呢，提供这个全方位的技术支持。谢谢大家。
谢谢你，我也想详细分享一下这个经验我们其实还可以继续讨论，其实有很多的一些重点还可以继续讨论。幸好我们下午还有3个 workshop， 我们可以更详细讨论关于绿色燃料，关于这个绿色航运走廊，也包括这个航运电动化。所以现在我也不想让大家再停留了，因为我们还有这个午餐时间，还可以再详细谈的让大家跟我一起感谢今天的发言的嘉宾，谢谢大家。
好，非常感谢主持人跟各位的speakers， 谢谢讲者，谢谢大家。Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It has indeed been a very, very long day. So it is towards the end of this conference, so naturally we like to hear some summary and conclusion. So maybe I shall just invite randomly workshop 1. Green corridors. Okay, I see Nick is desperately trying to get Roberto to. All right then, Nick, I think it's all yours. Okay. Oh, Roberto, will you kindly come forward and join Nick? Thank you.
Oh, is that one working?
Nothing like being put on the spot, eh?
Yeah, me too. Thank you very much for all your inputs today. I really enjoyed our session. I think we're all trying to construct what green corridors, fuel infrastructure, and electrification really means when it comes to practicalities. I think one of the key takeaways from the session I was in was that we need to find a way to establish the preconditions for financeable models for green corridors. And one of the key preconditions for that and for success in the Greater Bay Area is joining up Hong Kong and the Greater Bay Area to create a broader platform to be one end of many, many green corridors. But please, my group, if anyone wants to comment, please put your hand up. I think we've seen the Greater Bay Area story as a really strong narrative, this big ecosystem, that now with MEPC 83, there's an opportunity to create an environment that will support compliance, that will attract the ships that will burn alternative fuels, that can benefit from electrification. I think Yantian as a port is able to support this already. Hong Kong clearly has a journey to go on, I think is what we heard today. Polly, you're not here, are you? No, I think we've established she has left. She had some great comments at the end of our session, but I think they were very much aligned with what we were looking at in the financing group, that we need to establish what is a green corridor, how do we merge our systems and take advantage of the opportunities of the Greater Bay Area, and how to properly plan for that green transition. But there is definitely a big opportunity there, but we need to work much harder now to establish just what exactly those preconditions for success would look like. One of the takeaways from the few cargo owners we had was not to rely on them directly. They will be price takers rather than market makers. So that's probably a familiar story to many of us in shipping, and that's fair enough, I think. So you get into chicken and egg territory. Who's going to make the egg? Well, we're all the chickens, I think, to some extent. Roberto, do you have anything to add? Now we've put you on the spot.
Yeah, no. I think what I thought was interesting, even though we broke up into 3 different groups, we all kind of had similar ideas, similar comments. While talking about finance, you need to understand what is a definition for a green corridor. In our group, there was a little bit of, green corridor doesn't have to be what we understand, for example, C40 does. It could be something that we create out of that is completely different. And what we talked about was, instead of trying to think of a green corridor that we're going to make it look like everywhere else, try to do something that is a little bit different. Think outside of the box. Try to, instead of creating something out of thin air, use an existing business model, something that is already being done in Hong Kong, and use that as a platform to build a green corridor. So we said, for example, Hong Kong is a hub for some cargo that is within China's hinterland. We could, for example, find a shipper that is interested in moving their cargo on greener transportation, have a lower footprint, carbon footprint. And we could say that the location of their factory in Hong Kong is a green corridor. We know that CIMC has a factory in Zhangjiang, and they're going to be moving green methanol to Hong Kong. Why not have that as a corridor? We also looked at one of the areas where there's a lot of carbon emission that is part of Hong Kong's model for shipping, and that's Chile. And there is a lot of interest in Chile in looking at, they're looking at production. There's some big shippers, some of the cherry exporters, some of the others that would be very interested in having a greener footprint. The shipping lines that are involved in that, some of the old Chilean shipping company, CSAV, CCNI, that are already part of a bigger infrastructure that are using green vessels under, be that Hapag-Lloyd or Maersk. Those can be green corridors. So we don't have to make something out of thin air, but use something that is already there. We also talked about not looking at Hong Kong alone, but incorporating it into the bigger GBA model. And I think that there was the different characteristics that we could look at is not only the how green or establishing a greenliness level for the two ports, but instead we could consider what is it that we're interested in targeting. For example, it might be total energy consumption. It could be just a general reduction of GHG emissions. There could be so many different variations that we look at. So I think that was some of the, and we also talked about building off of what IMO is already doing. So we see what they have done. They've raised the bar. The platform now is higher than it was before. What we're wanting to do is say a green corridor is something that is now above that. So build on something that doesn't exist, or it shows a value added in terms of the green levels. So
fantastic,
else?
Thank you. Yeah, thanks, Roberto. And anyone from the electrification and fuels like to contribute, really? Sorry, Kenneth. Yeah, Kenneth.
All right, so for the electrification workshop, we also have a very fantastic discussions and presentations. Basically, if you take our message, for constructing or planning the electrification infrastructure, it needs at least 24 months to 36 months. So we need to act now. If you don't act now, you keep on delaying another 3 years. So this is an important message we need to know, because in Hong Kong, it takes time to really build the infrastructure. So the terminal operators, the cruise terminal operator has to consider, in particular, the government needs to start planning for it, because it is important for the government to take the lead. A few barriers actually raised by the groups. The first one is about the land lease, because at the moment, the terminal operators is not allowed to do charging business. Simply, they're not allowed. So the land lease has to be revised in coming soon. I think the government needs to consider it. Several bureaus need to work together to figure out how to enable the operator to do the charging operations. And then we talk about the charging technology. A number of attendants favor battery swapping. But when you use battery swapping, in particular for the GBA routes, because short trips, the time they stay at the terminal very short, could be 1 to 2 hours. And you're talking about charging for half an hour, just too long for them. So battery swapping could be a viable method to do electrifications. But however, if you do battery swapping, the battery itself became dangerous good. And that is regulated by the Fire Services Department. You are not allowed to store too many batteries on the terminal. This is another issue we need to tackle in future, and it has to be facilitated by the government as well. And then came the problem about capital investment. Definitely, the capex is high. How can we encourage the ship owner to really change to electric versions of the vessels? And then the current space available in the terminal is limited. So definitely we need to start thinking early, because planning takes time, takes 3 years. I just stop here because I don't want to spend too much time, because these are the key issues. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kenneth. Now, let's go to the final group. That will be the Green Fuels. Deepak, please.
I think our group focused on the fuels and the role of the government in establishing a fuel maritime hub for Hong Kong. I think when we looked at the fuels itself, we took the perspective of demand supply, and storage and infrastructure. So when you look at the order book, it was clear that from a fuels perspective, there should be a dual focus, LNG/bio-LNG and methanol, because those are the number one and number two alternative fuel vessels that are on order. One of the challenges for LNG was the infrastructure within Hong Kong. There was ample in GBA, but within Hong Kong, there's only a limited infrastructure. Whereas for methanol, things could be built a bit more faster and a bit more cost effective within the Hong Kong region. There is land available in Chingy for green infrastructure, but also somebody noted there's enough storage space between Sinopec and Exxon today that can be converted to methanol use if required in a faster way. The other power it came is, given it's a small port, the logistics and time efficiency, we need to have local storage to make things faster. And that played well for favor of methanol. And coming to the fuel itself, the reliance on LNG, it's a bit external to China. Most of the fuel is imported from other countries. It's traded, and it will be the same for biomethane as well, whereas e-methanol or biomethanol or even e-ammonia in the future can be locally produced and from China and procured for China bunkering. So that was kind of the conclusion on the fuel. I think the other two questions was basically the role of government, basically what and how. And I think there's a unanimous consensus that the government has to do much more than what it's been doing. They've done quite a few things since last policy address, but there was room to step up as well. More like providing more incentives, local incentives for people to adopt it and build the infrastructure out as well. In terms as to how to do it, it was like have kind of the incentive scheme of Singapore, but the fast and paceness of Shanghai was kind of the conclusion of the group. Anyone from the workshop, if you want to add something else, please do add.
Okay, thank you very much, Deepak. Last but not least, we're wrapping up now. May I just invite our chairman to just conclude and just say a few words on behalf of the chamber.
Thank you, Pam. Thank you to all of you for being here today. It's a supply chain discussion, and today we've gathered here friends from not only from the shipping industry, fuel producers, power company, ports, not only in Hong Kong, but GBA, as well as from mainland China, government, again, Hong Kong, and also from GBA. So we really have the supply chain here. Our ambition is to have this discussion that will drive industry development across the GBA on the development of clean energy supply chain, and that's who you are. That's who we have gathered here. All of you are experts in your own area, but this is maybe an unprecedented challenge in many ways, not since at least the Industrial Revolution is humankind confronted with this type of energy transition that we're facing here. And it really requires the collective knowledge, intelligence, and wisdom of everyone to work together, not only in the GBA and Hong Kong, but indeed within China, across the region, and around the world. Let me begin by thanking you, our academic partners, University of Science and Technology. I take very little credit. Of course, the Secretariat within the Chamber has worked very hard, closely with USC, and in particular, Christine Lowe and her team, Kenneth, Billy, in putting together today's program together. Many countless hours have gone into this, so please just join me in raising your hands and applauding Christine, UST, and the Secretary for hard work. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank our 3 event sponsors, BV, RENA, as well as CCON, as well as Invest Hong Kong, as well as the partners for the Chamber. Without your financial support and steadfast support for the chamber and our ongoing activities, this would have been, again, impossible. But again, you are not only financial supporters, you have contributed to the programming and play an active role in steering the moderation and discussion, both in the morning session as well as in the closer workshops. Maybe we have raised more questions than answers, which, given the stage of development, i.e. we're at the very beginning of this new supply chain, it's not surprising. All the people who did the sharing just now, representing 3 workshops, have said sensible things, but I would like to echo my friend Kenneth. I would like to say we need ambition. IMO has stated this ambition. Many people have said impossible, but we have to conquer the impossible if humankind is to move forward, if we are to realize the sustainable tomorrow. And I think we are sitting on more ability, more resources, more execution power than we realize. Across the world, people are asking, how is this energy transition going to happen? How is the marine industry going to find sustainable fuel, going to be produced at volume, at the type of volume required, at the type of value, cost that is required to drive things forward? Innovation. I think IMO, as we said this morning, has provided the floor, and with this floor, I think the market will compete. And with innovation, we'll continue to drive down the cost. As my friend Nick said just now, we are at this moment looking for a business case. We are collectively working towards building the financial platform to enable the supply chain to roll forward. But we need pilots. We need to award the first movers, and we need to set ambition. And I think across this room here, we have ship owners who are already investing, putting their money into future ships. Okay, LNG, even ammonia and methanol power ship. The people in this room have put money in there. We have people, we have companies putting their money into the production of green electricity, into renewable fuels, sustainable fuels, hydrogen, methanol, and in the future, ammonia. If we can just talk to each other within this room and make sense of each other and put a compelling case together, I think there's much we can do right here. And as we saw this morning, the government is willing to collaborate with us. They are willing to listen. And they want to move together with us. But speed is crucial. This year, Hong Kong government has set the target to do a pilot bunkering exercise. Hong Kong, and then there's Shenzhen, and then there's Qingdao, and then there's Tianjin, and then there's Dalian, and Shanghai's already done it, and Ningbo's on the way. So only in China, we're looking at potentially close to 10 ports with green bunkering ability. We need to show the world we can do this in order for the world to also collectively move forward. But here, we have the ability to move things. Never forget that, because I think, when I sort of jump across the different groups, people are asking, how are we going to move forward? You have to believe in the process. It's a leap of faith. But unless we do this leap of faith, there is no hope for tomorrow. And I'm really talking in the broader sense. Me, as chairman of a shipping company, I have seen firsthand how one city, one port city, has made that leap based on a discussion between 2 national presidents, and make that leap into investment into LNG. And they become the first mover in China. They become the first mover in Asia. And they are seizing that opportunity from elsewhere to establishing themselves, to becoming the premier, potentially, bunkering port, not only in China, but maybe in the region. And Hong Kong needs to show the same type of initiative and ambition to do things. Timeline is this year. Ladies and gentlemen, looking forward to continue the conversation. The next step, Chamber, together with USC, we are going to put in a submission to the government to continue to move things forward within the spectrum of the next month. First paper, second paper, possibly within next quarter. So let's continue discussion. All of you now know each other, so formally, informally, let's continue discussion and let's move forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Hing. Thank you.